Your video shocked Grindelwald. Congratulations to the owner for the reward, spell, Fire Shield, Intermediate. Damn! Grindelwald gas stove. Zhang Dong quickly looked at the reward. Just now I was talking about this magic, and I got it. Fire Shield is definitely one of the ultimate magics in the wizarding world, along with the rebirth and armor spell. However, Zhang Dong doesn't understand how Grindelwald turned a defensive magic into such an offensive spell. Zhang Dong quickly checked. Intermediate, you can arrange a circle of blue flames around to prevent people with bad intentions from passing through, and it also has a powerful burning ability. Advanced, it can continue to spread around until it devours everything around. Ultimate, Flame Demon, which is about the level of Grindelwald in the video. Although Grindelwald has the Elder Wand amplification, considering that Zhang Dong also has the Big Hat and Broom amplification, the difference should not be too big. Although it's only intermediate, if I take a broom and put on a hat, I can also play an advanced level, which is very good. Zhang Dong was obviously very satisfied. Not only is this spell cool, but also because although it is black magic, it is not unforgivable, which means that he can release it openly. As for why I can. I was born with supernatural powers. No, I am gifted, can't I figure it out by myself? Grindelwald can invent this magic from scratch, so I, Zhang Dong, can't learn it by copying it. Grindelwald's reward is still good, if you can give it a higher level. At this time, Grindelwald was also looking at the light screen in front of him that was about to disappear, and he was quite confused. Why don't you play it? Keep going. Grindelwald was really bored. Looking at the light screen in front of him that had shown that the playback was over, with only a thumbs up, a coin and a star left, he was really anxious. Just a few minutes, who can see it? He raised his head and said to someone. Hey! No matter who you are or what you want to do, I am just an old man who is locked up. You don't have to be afraid of me. Come out and talk. But of course no one would respond to him. This made Grindelwald sigh. It seems that this person is really cautious. But what do these three patterns mean? Grindelwald subconsciously stretched out his hand on the light screen, and then saw that the three patterns gradually lit up like a reading progress bar. Then, Grindelwald seemed to see one option after another appearing in front of him, which made Grindelwald hesitate. However, thinking of his current situation, he also laughed helplessly. I am like this, what am I afraid of? He already has nothing, how bad can he be? The worst thing is death. So, he selected something. You played the video just now because you want this. After Grindelwald made his choice, the three patterns disappeared and turned into a sentence. One click, triple click success, you get the power. Post barrage, private chat with the Upmaster, and view the played videos by yourself. Swish. Videos appeared in front of Grindelwald one by one, all of which were played by Zhang Dong before. Seeing these videos, Grindelwald's eyes lit up, and then he sat down and watched them. Sorting video. Albus is getting old. Oh, he didn't even come to see me. He's not afraid that I'll escape from prison. Snape? Is he a professor at Hogwarts? He has the potential to be a dark wizard. Haha. This explosive genius Seamus is quite interesting. He is very suitable to join my team. I can let him take revenge. Wait. What's going on? Hogwarts was attacked. But with Dumbledore here, it shouldn't be a big deal. Quidditch match? It's really a peaceful sport. This Harry is talented. Pretty good. I heard that he is the boy who defeated Voldemort? Really interesting. With Albus's personality, he should pay attention to him. Watching the videos one by one, Grindelwald finally felt satisfied. After watching for a long time, he was satisfied and tore another piece from the tattered bed sheet and began to write a letter to Dumbledore. At this time, a voice also sounded in Zhang Dong's mind. Grindelwald can triple-click your video with one click, and you can get a coin reward, Fire Shield, Advanced. Hey? Zhang Dong was stunned for a moment, then rubbed his eyes. What the hell? Triple-click with one click? This video has this function. You can also like, coin and collect it. Wait, why didn't anyone do this before? The reason is very simple. Not everyone is as fearless as Grindelwald in desperate situations. A light screen with unknown details suddenly appeared. Who would be willing to touch it with their hands? Not necessarily. The little lions of Gryffindor might dare to do it. Unfortunately, most of the videos were played in the restaurant. It was impossible for any little lion to run up and click 3 times in a row. After thinking about this, Zhang Dong finally understood. It seems that this phone still has many functions that I need to discover myself. The shock of the new things made Zhang Dong forget the advanced fire shield he had just obtained. When Zhang Dong reacted, his eyes were full of surprise. Now he just wanted to take back his previous words with Harry and the other two. What do you mean by being on par with Percy? I can beat his head off. Your video shocked Nicholas Flamel, and you get the reward, Philosopher's Stone, 1. Congratulations on getting Nicholas Flamel's 1 click 3 click, and you get the coin reward, recover as before, intermediate. This. Zhang Dong didn't know what to say for a while. Nicholas Flamel is stingy, but he revealed the most precious alchemical crystal, the Philosopher's Stone. He is generous, but he gave a reward to restore it to its original state. Wait. Zhang Dong suddenly reacted, and he looked at the first reward he received. Philosopher's Stone. Wait, this one of mine shouldn't be the one that Dumbledore hid. Instantly, Zhang Dong reacted. However, it shouldn't be, the system rewarded me with so many spells, and Snape, Fulliver, and McGonagall didn't forget their spells. I hope it was taken from a parallel world or something, otherwise it will be difficult to explain if it is discovered later. As for returning it. What a joke, you want me to return something that is in my pocket. Dream on. The atmosphere of Christmas permeated the campus of Hogwarts. The heavy snow last night added a special atmosphere to this festival. Zhang Dong walked on the lawn of the campus with Harry and Ron. Harry was complaining about his experience of spending Christmas at the Dursleys' house. He had to get up early to clean the room and brave the cold to clean his uncle's old car. In the evening, when the family gathered together, he could only hide in the corner and eat bread silently, trying not to disturb their interest. This caused Ron's dissatisfaction and he complained with Harry, while Zhang Dong just smiled and listened without commenting. The Dursleys' affairs are a bit complicated. You say he is bad, they raised Harry to adulthood, and you say he is good, but he often abuses Harry. In the end, Zhang Dong could only understand that this family was just an ordinary person. After all, raising a child requires costs, and there was no reason for them to bear this cost. However, this was their nephew after all, so they couldn't send him to an orphanage, so this situation became the current one. So after hearing Harry's words, Zhang Dong smiled and reminded him. In fact, when you go home during the holidays, you can exchange some pounds from Gringotts and bring them back. It doesn't have to be much, just enough to meet your own expenses without them having to pay. When you go back, buy some snacks and toys for your brother, some small jewelry for your aunt, and a tie for your uncle. I dare not say more, but at least during your vacation, they should be embarrassed to bother you. Money is not omnipotent, but without money is absolutely impossible. Speaking of a realistic problem, how many families have quarreled over the issue of supporting the elderly, not to mention Harry, an outsider. Zhang Dong's words made Harry's eyes light up. This is actually the simplest social etiquette, but Harry's relationship with the Dursleys made him subconsciously not think about this. Then, can Gringotts exchange pounds? Harry asked again. And Zhang Dong nodded. Of course, 1 gold galleon can be exchanged for 5 pounds, and you can definitely exchange 10 gold galleons. Don't exchange too much. It's easy to exchange gold galleons for pounds, but it's hard to exchange pounds for gold galleons. It's only 1991 now, and 50 pounds is already a month's income for many families. It's more than enough for Harry to spend a vacation. Harry listened and nodded quickly. Sure enough, Zhang Dong is still reliable. Pa! Just as Harry nodded, a snowball hit him in the face directly from Pia not far away. Fred! George! Ron looked at the direction where the snowball flew and shouted. He was not angry that his 2 brothers threw snowballs at them, but that they actually attacked them. Looking at his angry brother, Fred shouted happily, Ron, Harry, Zhang Dong, come together. George, we 2 don't bully the weak, 2 against 3, the advantage is on you, how about it, fair? Fair, very fair. Zhang Dong. Kill them. Ron said and pulled Harry join the battlefield, just as George said, 2 against 3, the advantage is theirs, bullshit. Swish. The moment Ron and Harry rushed in, Fred and George took out their wands at the same time. Wingardium Leviosa. Under the levitation spell, snowballs shot at Ron and Harry like machine guns, hitting the two of them and making them run for their lives. Zhang Dong! Help! The two could only ask Zhang Dong for help. I told you to practice the levitation spell. Zhang Dong sighed, then took out his wand and tapped it on the ground. Boom! Instantly, a snow dragon more than 10 meters long came out from the ground. The snow dragon moved around, emitting an amazing chill. Even in the sun, Fred and George could see the dragon scales on it. Transfiguration spell and levitation spell. This is a snowball fight for wizards. Zhang Dong shouted, and then he jumped up and stood on the head of the snow dragon, and then rode the snow dragon to chase the Weasley twins. Looking at the snow dragon that was bigger than the two of them combined, the twins turned around and ran. Snowball fight? What the hell? They ran, Zhang Dong chased, and the whole Hogwarts seemed to be able to hear the screams of the two. Standing by the window, watching this scene below, Professor McGonagall couldn't help but quietly applaud Zhang Dong. After so many years, someone can finally control these two troublemakers. By the way, Percy will be promoted to the 6th grade and serve as the student council president next year. The position of the prefect should be handed over to Zhang Dong. The prefect is usually only a 5th-year student, but McGonagall feels that if Zhang Dong is replaced, he may not be unconvincing. This transfiguration and levitation spell is so cool. As for Quirrell, who was passing by, he was almost dumbfounded by the scene in front of him. Is this a transfiguration spell that a first-year student can use? He doesn't have the ability to do it now. Zhang Dong was having a lot of fun riding the snow dragon. If it weren't for the Weasley twins who saw the situation was not good and protected Professor Flitwick in front of him, Zhang Dong would be even happier. Merry Christmas, Professor Flitwick! Zhang Dong quickly used the transfiguration spell and jumped off the snow dragon. He also glared at the twins, meaning you wait for me, next time I will directly turn the snow into ice swords, and then use the floating spell to hang upside down behind me, and see if I can stab you or not. Professor Flitwick had not yet reacted to Zhang Dong's snow dragon. After a long while, he looked at Zhang Dong with bright eyes and asked. You transformed the snow dragon just now. This. I have some talent in transfiguration. Great. Flitwick pulled Zhang Dong over, and then used his magic wand to transform one golden bubble after another and hung it on the Christmas tree. Then he asked Zhang Dong, can you do it? This. It's not difficult, it can be done with intermediate transfiguration. That's great. Okay, come and help me with the work. Professor Flitwick. This is your job. 5 points for Gryffindor. Ahem, Professor, I'm just a student. And today is a holiday. Seeing Zhang Dong say this, Professor Flitwick felt embarrassed. Yes, how could he let a child help him with his work during the holidays? Such a teacher is too immoral. Thinking of this, Professor Flitwick sighed and said, well, I won't disturb you guys, anyway, I'll finish it in another hour. After saying that, Professor Flitwick was about to raise his head and continue working. However, the moment he turned around, he found that his arm had been grabbed by a pair of small hands. Zhang Dong, is there anything else? Professor. I'm just a student. And today is a holiday. Well, so what? It will cost extra. Professor Flitwick. I'm tired. I'm just a kid. Lying on the bed, Zhang Dong couldn't help but sigh that he underestimated the work given by Professor Flitwick. There was no other way. Zhang Dong asked Flitwick for 15 points on the grounds of triple salary on holidays. Professor Flitwick felt bad for giving it. After giving these 15 points, the last place this year will change from Gryffindor to Hufflepuff. Alas, it seems that it has no effect on us Ravenclaws. That's fine. The more capable, the more work. But Zhang Dong, don't you want to see your Christmas present? Ron reminded Zhang Dong. It's Christmas, and seeing the presents should be the happiest thing for everyone. At this time, even if you are so tired that your hands and feet can't move, you have to open the presents. Besides, Zhang Dong is just a little empty because of the exhaustion of magic power, but he is still full of physical strength. Then start opening the presents. Zhang Dong jumped off the bed and ran to the pile of presents to look at the presents he received. Of course, he did not forget to give out his own presents. Harry, Ron, this is yours. Zhang Dong handed them 2 gift boxes. He had already given out the presents of others. Zhang Dong, thank you. By the way, this is a present for you. Harry and Ron also gave their presents to Zhang Dong. Ron couldn't wait to open the box. He saw a brand new hamster cage inside. The cage was made of aluminum alloy and was absolutely sturdy. This is great. Banban, you have a new home. Ron happily opened the hamster cage and put Banban in it. Harry Potter also opened the Christmas present he received. He saw an exquisite photo frame inside the box. Thank you, Zhang Dong. Harry said gratefully, this is the best gift I have ever received, although I don't know which photo to put in it yet. Zhang Dong smiled and said, don't worry, maybe you will have photos to put in it soon. Although Harry didn't understand what Zhang Dong meant, he was still full of emotion and touched when he looked at the photo frame. After so many years, he finally received a normal Christmas gift. On the other side, Ron's voice continued to sound. This is Hermione's gift. Oh my god, it's strange beans. I don't like to eat this. She didn't even ask me what flavor I like in advance. Harry also curiously opened his gift box, which contained horseshoe-shaped chocolates. It seems that mine is better than yours, Ron. At least mine tastes better. Oh, forget it, Scabbers, I'll give it all to you. Ron directly poured a bag of strange beans into the new hamster cage, and Scabbers was not picky about food and ate it happily. Ron stroked Banban's fur, then looked at Zhang Dong's box and asked. Zhang Dong, what snack did Hermione give you? I don't know, let me open it and take a look. Zhang Dong said he opened the box in front of him. But to Ron's surprise, inside was an orange and red scarf, and there was also a piece of paper in the box that said, I hope this scarf can bring you some warmth this winter, Hermione. Oh. This is different from ours. Ron looked at Zhang Dong's scarf with envy. This scarf is obviously much more expensive than his and Harry's snacks, and in comparison, their gifts seem to be randomly chosen. Zhang Dong smiled, and then put the scarf directly on his neck. Not to mention, it's really warm, and it's obviously made of good wool. Harry didn't care, and his attention was now completely focused on his gift. His aunt and uncle gave him 50 pence, enough to buy 2 burgers. But Harry didn't lack money, so he gave the 50 pence directly to Ron, and Ron was very happy. It wasn't because he was short of money, but because it was the first time he saw the currency of the Muggle world. Ron's mother also gave Harry a sweater, which made Harry very happy. As for Zhang Dong, Ron gave him a big box of fudge, which seemed to be made by his family. Zhang Dong ate a piece and it tasted really good. And Harry gave him a cooking magic book, Turn a Table into a Feast. Harry said that he heard that China has a rich food culture, so he bought this book specifically hoping that Zhang Dong could use magic to cook in the future, which would be more convenient. And Zhang Dong put it away helplessly. He wanted to say, not every Chinese can cook a full banquet. But he still expressed his gratitude politely. And in the end, Harry finally opened the last box. The moment the box was opened, a shiny silver-grey object slid to the ground like liquid. The moment he saw this thing, Zhang Dong knew. Finally, the first Deathly Hallows appeared. What is this? Harry picked it up and looked at it curiously. If I'm not mistaken, this is a very precious Deathly Hallows, called the Invisibility Cloak. Zhang Dong explained briefly. The legend of the Deathly Hallows has been widely circulated in the wizarding world, but for most people, it is just a legend. Mastering 3 Deathly Hallows can make you the Master of Death, which sounds outrageous enough. Even Dumbledore believed that the so-called legend of the Deathly Hallows is more likely that the Peverell brothers are powerful and dangerous wizards who made these powerful Deathly Hallows themselves, and then made up some kind of legend around these inventions. But Harry certainly didn't know these, he didn't even know what the Deathly Hallows were. He excitedly put on the cloak and stood in front of the mirror. At this moment, he saw that the part of himself covered by the cloak in the mirror seemed to have disappeared out of thin air, leaving only his head outside, which looked quite interesting. And Zhang Dong looked at him enviously. The invisibility cloak in front of him. To be honest, he didn't care about the Elder Wand and the Resurrection Stone. After all, in terms of magic, the magic items he got from the system were not weaker than them. But the invisibility cloak. Which man has not had the desire to go to the women's bathhouse to peek invisibly? However, this is just an idea. Even if Zhang Dong learns the invisibility spell in the future, he will not do it. However, this does not affect his thoughts. Is it illegal to think about it? But Harry on the other side thought completely differently. At this time, he only had one idea in his mind. Put on this dress, can I go anywhere? Even Filch can't catch me. Looking at Harry's expectant and surprised expression, Zhang Dong knew. This kid is not going to do good things again. Christmas at Hogwarts is extremely lively, with fragrant roast turkey, piles of roast potatoes as high as a hill, and plates of exquisite sausages. Zhang Dong and his friends were attracted by the delicious food as soon as they came in. And every 2 steps Zhang Dong and his friends took, a bunch of gorgeous fireworks would rise from the dining table and fly into the air to emit colorful lights. These magical fireworks are different from the fireworks in the Muggle world. Each one is very safe. The exploding fireworks are not open flames, but some colorful magical smoke. Occasionally, some flying navy hats, cute little white mice, flashing balloons, and other things fly out of them. Other things are fine, but those little white mice are unlucky. They are directly grabbed and played with by Mrs. Norris, who came to the banquet. It is estimated that they will become its dinner tonight. As for the professors, Dumbledore in the stands changed his pointed wizard hat into a hat decorated with flowers, which made him look very cute and funny, but Zhang Dong thought of Grindelwald. He had never known who was on top and who was on the bottom, but now he seemed to have guessed it. One day when there are many people, I will let go of 2 months of infatuation and a century of unspeakable things. I wonder if old Dumbledore will die socially. But Dumbledore certainly didn't know what Zhang Dong was thinking. He was listening to the very funny jokes that Professor Flitwick told him, and he laughed happily. Next to him, Hagrid asked for 1 glass of wine after another. Although he was tall, his alcohol tolerance was really not good. After drinking a few glasses, his face became redder and redder. In the end, he kissed Professor McGonagall on the cheek. Damn! Zhang Dong couldn't help shouting out loud. This scene wasn't in the movie. What a pity! Otherwise, he would have edited the video long ago. And Harry, who was next to Zhang Dong, couldn't help but rush up to apologize for Hagrid, but they saw that Professor McGonagall just giggled, with a little blush on her face, and the tall black top hat even tilted to one side, but she didn't seem angry at all. This scene made everyone feel extremely beautiful and warm. Hogwarts is really like home. Everyone sat down and started to enjoy the food. It must be said that the cooking skills of the house elves are really good. The turkey was roasted on the outside and tender on the inside, and the taste was just right. But Harry didn't eat so happily, not because he didn't like it, but because he couldn't wait for dinner to end and then try his invisibility cloak. And Zhang Dong was also a little absent-minded. The main thing was that it was Christmas. Would it be reasonable for him not to play a video? However, it is not appropriate to play some sad videos during this big festival, so let's play a happier video. Zhang Dong found this video. After you left, every mirror is the mirror of Arist. However, before playing this video, we still need to let them know what the mirror of Arist is. After all, most people don't know this thing at all. Zhang Dong still remembers that in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Quirrell stood in front of the mirror of Arist and didn't know what it was. This shows how well known this thing is. Let's make a popular science video first. Well, let's use Harry looking in the mirror and Dumbledore looking in the mirror to popularize science. Then, the light screen appeared. Ah! It appeared again. Is this the Christmas gift that the mysterious existence gave us? I like this Christmas gift. I hope it will be an interesting video, just like the previous sorting video. I still hope to have an exciting Quidditch video. How about it? Isn't the next game Hufflepuff vs. Ravenclaw? Hufflepuff will win. I hope to have a personal video, just like Seamus. I also want to be the protagonist. Watching everyone discussing, even Harry, who was worried, couldn't help but focus on the video. Sure enough, watching the video is the most interesting. At this time, the screen appeared. The famous fire thief, the devil of the 15th century. In the darkness, a hand holding a lantern floated in the air. There was nothing strange about the lantern, but there was only one hand in the picture, which was very scary. The moment Harry saw this picture, his eyes widened. It's over. He was discovered before he had time to go out for a night tour. Looking at this scene, Professor McGonagall sobered up instantly. She looked at Harry in front of her helplessly, and then said in a warning tone. Harry, the invisibility cloak is not for you to use for this. Although she hadn't seen his face yet, McGonagall knew it was Harry's voice. And 99% of those who went out for a night walk were little lions from Gryffindor. Even Snape on the side had his eyes on Harry. Don't let me catch you, Mr. Potter, or I will definitely confiscate your cloak and deduct 50 points from Gryffindor. Harry trembled all over, feeling a little scared. He was not Zhang Dong, who had added 50 points himself, and no one would say anything if he deducted 50 points. He only added 20 points, and they were added in the Quidditch match, which was not as much as Snape's deduction in the potions class. If he deducted another 50 points, how would everyone look at him? So, Harry made a decision silently. I must be more careful when I go out at night in the future. As for not going out at night? What a joke, is he still a qualified Gryffindor? In the interrogation room, Graves sat in front of Newt and Tina. You puzzle me, Mr. Newt's commander. You dropped out of Hogwarts for endangering human life. Newt said quickly, it was an accident. There was a teacher who was willing to defend you and didn't want to expel you. Sometimes I wonder, what makes Albus Dumbledore like you so much? Are you Dumbledore's favorite student? Newt, Graves, immediately execute, death. Sentence. Ron, hey. Harry, hey. Hermione, hey. Not just them, almost everyone was desperately asking questions there. Harry, why should Dumbledore's favorite student be sentenced to death? Is this a high-risk job? Grindelwald, this. I feel, just feel, there should be a part in the middle. Damn, you should release the whole thing. This is a malicious editing. Grindelwald is about to curse. It's true that he wants to kill Newt, but that's because his existence will ruin my business. Well, it may have something to do with him being Dumbledore's favorite student, but only one thing. If you release it like this, others will suspect that I am petty. Hermione, no. Zhang Dong, you are now Dumbledore's favorite student. Will you be in danger? Dumbledore, Ms. Granger, don't be nervous. I like every one of my students. Zhang Dong will not be in any danger. Zhang Dong, I hope so. Graves, and Miss Goldstein, she is an accomplice and will also be sentenced to death. Grindelwald. I look even more perverted. No. This has nothing to do with her. Newt still wanted to take the blame, but Graves would not listen to him. No. Tina burst into tears. She thought that her situation was not good, but she thought the worst case was to lose her job. How could she have thought that she would be sentenced to death? I was going to report yesterday, and you asked me to leave. Graves and I clearly talked about the sniff, have you forgotten everything? Also, I was the one who brought Newt's box to report. You didn't even consider me a meritorious service, but you didn't even give me a chance to surrender? Tina's desperate pain and sad crying made Queenie, who was delivering coffee to guests not far away, panic. Pa! Instantly, the coffee in her hand fell to the ground. Tina Goldstein, this is the telepathy between sisters. Even at a distance, I can feel my crisis. Queenie Goldstein, of course, we are sisters. Others didn't think too much about it. After all, it's not everyone knows that Graves is Grindelwald's. Their focus is on how to deal with Graves. Mundungus, is this the death penalty? Is the punishment in the United States so severe? I thought at most the box would be confiscated and a fine would be imposed. Arthur Weasley, now you know how lucky you are. Come to the Ministry of Magic and turn yourself in, I can give you a lighter sentence. Hermione Granger, it's obvious, the United States Congress needs someone to calm the anger of other Congresses, and it just so happens that Miss Tina came to the door herself. If she doesn't take the blame, who else can take the blame? Tina Goldstein, this. You can see through this at such a young age? It took me a long time to figure this out. Hermione Granger, this. You can see through this at such a young age? I only figured it out after thinking about it for a long time. Ranger, you have a good political sense and will become a qualified auror in the future. Hermione Granger, thank you for your compliment, but I still think this kind of handling is too irresponsible. It is too unfair to make a judgment without even investigating. Cornely Fudge, this has to mention our Ministry of Magic. Under my leadership, there has never been a false case. Ernie Macmillan, but Mr. Fudge, if it weren't for the light screen playing the truth in advance, you would have wrongly accused Harry of using magic outside the school. Cornely Fudge. Whose child is this? I declare. Don't even think about entering the Ministry of Magic in the future. Tom Riddle, but I'm really curious, what does the death penalty in the United States Congress look like? A directivata? Or a blazing flame? Fragmented into pieces? Crushed into pieces? Dumbledore, that's the Ministry of Magic, not your execution room. Don't be like this, Bernadette. Tina pleaded with the executioner around her. However, the woman called Bernadette looked at her with a smile and said, "Don't be nervous, Tina, it won't be painful." Tina and Newt came to an empty room. There was nothing here, only a pool of silver grey liquid and an ordinary armchair floating in the middle. Tina certainly knew what it was. She was still crying, but as Bernadette's wand touched her forehead, she became quiet. Bernadette waved her wand, and a silver-white light entered the pool. Then, Tina seemed to see a woman calling her name in the pool. Tina! Tina! That was Tina's mother, who had left her long ago. Ron, so, the execution chamber in the United States is a large-sized pensieve. Arthur Weasley, you know about the pensieve? It seems that Hogwarts has taught you very well. Ron smiled awkwardly. Of course, he would not say that he knew about the pensieve because he watched Hogwarts Legacy last time. I just found out about it. 3.9. Tom Riddle, haha, what a troublesome way of execution. It's really better to use an Avada directly. Dumbledore, Tom, I remember I told you that Avada is the most evil black magic. Frequent use of black magic will only make your personality more and more split. Tom Riddle, split? I feel like I'm very normal now, extremely normal. Harry Potter, usually only abnormal people always emphasize that they are normal. James Potter, ha ha ha. Well said, Potter. I'm proud of you. Harry's words startled everyone who watched the video, and then they secretly admired him. He is worthy of being Harry Potter, worthy of being their savior. This guy is really not afraid of Voldemort. In the hall of the Magic Congress, Sam, who was ordered to cast the Oblivion Charm on Jacob, was walking down the stairs with him. As soon as he appeared, Queenie greeted him enthusiastically. Hey Sam, someone is looking for you outside. Let me cast the Oblivion Charm on this no major. You are not qualified. Sam said righteously. Queenie thought for a moment, then looked at a pretty woman in front of her and said, Then Sam, does Cecily know that you are dating Ruby? How did you know? I don't know anything. Sam let go of Jacob's hand, and then watched Queenie and Jacob leave here as if nothing had happened. Ron Weasley, Legacy is really useful, I don't know when we can learn it. Professor Flitwick, well, if you pass the OW1 exam in your 5th year, you can come to me to learn advanced magic, but this magic is really difficult. Ron, how difficult is it? Professor Flitwick, you have the time to improve Legacy to intermediate level, and you can improve the levitation charm I taught you to advanced level. Cornely Fudge, but if you can improve Legacy to advanced level, even if you have no other abilities, you can apply for a good job in the Ministry of Magic. This is true, Legacy is a very important means. Primary Legacy can only be of some use to ordinary people and young wizards. Intermediate Legacy can work on adult wizards who do not resist. At the advanced level, even if adult wizards resist, they can forcibly read the other party's thoughts and even memories. The Ministry of Magic does not allow the use of truth serum. Rowling once said that powerful wizards can use magic to protect themselves from the effects of truth serum. For example, use a spell to block your tongue and throat, or change the potion into something else before it takes effect, or use brain occlumency to resist the effect of truth serum. And legilimency is more useful and more reliable than this. Unless the target's memory is modified, then even legilimency will have no effect. Rita Skeeter, I hate legilimency. I think I should practice occlumency recently. Dumbledore, Dean Dumbledore, can I ask, what level of legilimency is generally equivalent to a natural legilimency? Dumbledore, oh? It's rare. Have you learned to call me Dean Dumbledore? I always thought you called me an old lunatic. Rita Skeeter, this, haha. Rita was a little embarrassed. She didn't want to, but who made her ask for help now? Dumbledore still said, it depends on the user's talent, but at the worst it is equivalent to intermediate legilimency. There is no intermediate occlumency that can't resist it. Occlumency is an unpopular magic. There are more people who can do it than those who can do it. There are still few people who can perform legilimency, and even fewer who can perform it above the intermediate level. Looking at Dumbledore's answer, Rita was very confused. It was not worth it to spend so much time learning brain occlusion just to resist Zhang Dong. Tina. Tina. In the death penalty room, Tina was still sitting on the chair and slowly falling down. She had no idea that the pool of water below was not a gentle place, but a death potion. She also saw her memories. That was in the base camp of the Second Salem. Mary, who claimed to be the mother of everyone, was waving a belt and whipping a boy named Credence. In order to save the child, Tina took out her wand and knocked down Mary. It was because of this that she was demoted from an auror to the wand permit office. On the other side, Queenie kept using spells to get Newt's box and wand back from Graves' office. Alaho! Alaho! Unfortunately, the door was cast with an anti-Alaho spell, and Queenie's Alaho level was certainly no match for Graves. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Oh no, he must have used a very advanced spell. Queenie looked at Jacob helplessly. Looking at Queenie's eyes, Jacob looked around to make sure there was no one, and then kicked the door open with a flying kick. Hermione Granger, Alico Hole. Physical version. It turns out that not everything can be solved with magic. Arthur Weasley, Graves probably didn't expect that his at least advanced anti-Alico Hole spell would be broken by a muggle. Hagrid, it turns out that only physics can defeat magic. I have always believed so. To be honest, most of the time, my punch is definitely more useful than a stun. Harry Potter, Hagrid, that's you. Even the trolls can't withstand your punch. Just as Jacob kicked the door open, Newt's body suddenly turned back. At the same time, his hands bound by handcuffs suddenly broke free. This is when everyone saw that Newt actually had a bowtruckle in his hand. The two people who reacted immediately wanted to fight back. Unfortunately, 5 steps away, the wand may be faster. Within 5 steps, Newt's fist is obviously faster. Newt tried to grab the wand with his bare hands, but the girl was no match for him. Her hands were controlled by 953, and she fell unconscious and hit her friend. Even the wand of the friend was knocked into the death potion and turned into ashes. Ollivander, no. My wand. No, that doesn't seem to be my wand. It's okay then. Neville Longbottom, Senior Newt's physique is so good. Hannah Abbott, of course. Think about it, Senior Newt feeds all kinds of magical animals every day, which is all hard work. How can his physical strength be bad? Ron, the point is not Senior Newt's physique, but his magical animals. How many magical animals are there in him? Strange. Animal. Jongdong, this is the power of summoning. Ron, you can also try it, raising a bowtruckle, it will definitely be useful. Ron, forget it, I have scabbers. As Newt's triple kill ended, Tina finally woke up. Looking at the death potion that had become active under her, Tina looked at Newt in front of her in horror. Mr. Scamander. Don't panic. What else can I do besides panic? Jump over. What? Just jump over like this? If you fall into the death potion, won't your bones be gone? Facing the panicked Tina, Newt directly swung out his winged demon. The winged demon kept circling in the room, and Tina didn't trust that the winged demon would be so obedient. However, the death potion was getting closer and closer to her. Facing the crisis of life and death, she decided to fight. Tina jumped, and at this moment, the winged demon suddenly jumped down and appeared directly at Tina's feet. With the help of the winged demon, Tina actually successfully jumped to Newt's side. Hannah Abbott, hooray! Success! Senior Newt's winged demon is so obedient. It understood what he meant with just a whistle. Hagrid, of course it's smart. After all, it's a magical animal that grew up eating human brains. Hermione Granger, eat human brains. This is a magical animal. It's too scary. Newt, don't be afraid, little classmate. My winged demon has been raised since childhood and fed with sheep brains, not human brains. Hermione Granger, that's better. Although I still think this thing is scary. Newt, Tina, Jacob, and Queenie, the 4 of them quickly walked towards the underground passage. At this time, the Aurors had already received the news, and 2 Aurors immediately went to the underground passage to intercept Newt. 2 high-level fragmentation shots shot directly at Newt. Although Tina and Newt were powerful, they could only hide from the pursuit of the 2 without wands. Shattered into pieces. Shattered into pieces. 2 beams of white light shot out again, and Newt hid behind the stone pillar, and at the same time, the winged demon was thrown out. Bang! The winged demon flew and directly knocked the 2 Aurors to the ground. Summoning vs. Spells, Summoning 1. And Jacob and Queenie finally arrived, and the 4 met. Hermione Granger, this winged demon is so strong that it can defeat 2 Aurors. Hagrid, it's mainly because these two Aurors don't know about winged demons. Its carapace is very thick and can ignore most magical attacks. So let alone two Aurors, even someone at Dumbledore's level can be tricked if they are not careful. Ron, how is it possible? That's Dumbledore. Grindelwald, believe me, it's possible. Ron still doesn't understand how someone at Dumbledore's level could be tricked by an animal. At the gate of the Magic Congress, Queenie walks out with Newt's box. Apparently, Newt and the other two have already hidden in the box. Queenie, where are you going? It's not time to get off work yet. Abernethy, the boss of Queenie and Tina, rushes over. There are only a few people in the wand permit office. Tina is missing. If you, Queenie, skip work again, won't I be left alone? Well, I'm sick, Mr. Abernethy. Queenie whispered, and then deliberately coughed twice. Looked weak. Sick again? What's in the box? Abernethy asked. When Queenie heard this, she quickly took the box to the other party and said, "Female products, do you want to see them? In the hall, looking at female products? Then people will look at me as a pervert?" Abernethy shook his head quickly and said, "I wish you a speedy recovery." "Thank you." Queenie showed a charming smile and even helped Abernethy to adjust his tie intimately. The four magical beasts successfully left. Ron, Mr. Abernethy, I have to say that you came at a very bad time. Percy, I don't know if you noticed that Abernethy didn't say you were sick, but that you were sick again? It shows that Miss Queenie often skips work. Queenie, I'm just weak and sickly, okay? Hermione Granger, but Miss Queenie is still very smart, and she should be able to see that Mr. Abernethy should like her very much. Tina, do you still need to see? Just listen to your heart and you will know. But Queenie is really smart, she has been like this since she was a child. Queenie, thank you for the compliment. The scene changes, and at this time Graves changes his shape and comes to a dark street, where Credence has been waiting for him for a long time. Credence, have you found the child? Graves' patience is almost worn out. Obviously, Newt's appearance and the recent murder of the Obscurus forced him to act quickly. But Credence just shrank back in fear and said, I can't do it. Graves also felt that his attitude scared the child a little, so he hurriedly said, let me see. He gently pulled Credence's hand, and he saw that his hand was already covered with scars. Graves waved his hand gently on it, read the violent novel, just go to Novel Network. Healed as before. Still casting without a wand and silently. Credence's injuries also all returned to normal. The sooner we find the child, the sooner we can escape this fate. Graves said, and then took out a pendant necklace from his inner pocket and handed it to Credence. I have never trusted a person so much, but I want you to carry this mark. When you find the person, bang the mark and I will come immediately. From then on, you will be admired by millions of wizards. Graves hugged Credence gently after speaking, and then said, the child is dying, and time is running out. Flitwick, wait, that mark. Flitwick suddenly shouted, he had recognized what the mark was. Everyone also focused on the mark. It was a strange mark, a large triangle, Zhao Qian Zhao, inside was a smooth circle, and a vertical line divided it into two. Harry Potter, Flitwick Professor Way, what is that? Flitwick, the mark of the Deathly Hallows, this should be what Professor Binns told you. Well, I say the same. Do you know what the Deathly Hallows are? Harry Potter, I know a little, it seems to have an invisibility cloak. That's right. Flitwick nodded, although no one could see, the invisibility cloak is the triangle, the resurrection stone is the circle, and as for the vertical line, it represents the Elder Wand. Tom Riddle, the Elder Wand. Grindelwald, where did you hide the Elder Wand? Anyway, you can't use it, tell me now, I can let you out. Grindelwald, ha 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 ha. A dead man is still threatening me here? You should resurrect first. James Potter, speaking of the Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore, the Dean, my one. Dumbledore, James Potter, don't worry, it's already where it should be. Nicholas Flamel, however, the emblem here should not represent the Deathly Hallows. Between 1926 and 1945, it should have another meaning. Harry Potter, Mr. Nicholas Flamel. You are also looking at the light curtain. Excuse me, what else does this mark mean? Nicholas Flamel, you are Dumbledore's student, I have heard of your name. As for this mark, it had another meaning at that time, that is, Grindelwald's fanatic. As long as you carry that mark, it means that you are Grindelwald's fanatic. Harry Potter, Grindelwald's fanatic? So, is this Graves a fanatic of Grindelwald? I'm afraid it's more than that. Tom Riddle, what's so good about this mark? It's really uncreative to create an organization with someone else's mark as a representative. Look at my Death Eater tattoo. It's not only unique, but I will appear immediately if my subordinates are in danger. Avery, but you don't come every time we press it. Tom Riddle, did you press it? Avery, I should have pressed it. Tom Riddle 953, I don't think you did. Avery, that's it. It's definitely my fault. Tom nodded in satisfaction. Who told you to press it blindly? You press it whenever you meet anyone, but you press your arms. You press my face. Voldemort gets angry when he mentions this. Don't you know how to distinguish between occasions when you press the mark? If you press it when you have something good to do, won't I come immediately? You pressed it even though Dumbledore was pointing his wand at you. Wouldn't I be a fool if I went over there? Everyone continued to look at the light screen. On the rooftop of a building, 4 people were looking at the scenery downstairs. In fact, only Newt was there, because Queenie and Jacob were chatting happily on the side. Queenie, your grandfather raised pigeons, my grandfather raised owls. Unlike the two who were devoted to love, Tina looked at Newt very seriously and said, Graves insisted that the chaos here was caused by magical animals. We have to find all your magical animals so that he can no longer say that it was you who caused it. Newt nodded, there is only one left, Dougal. But there is a small problem. It is an invisible beast and can become invisible. Invisible? Then how do we catch it? I will try my best. Newt interrupted Tina, and the two looked at each other for a long time before Tina stepped forward and said, Neruk. What? Neruk, I used to be an auror. Newt, he wouldn't happen to be interested in magical creatures. Tina, he's interested in anything that can be sold for money. The scene ended here, and everyone became disappointed again as they watched the disappearing light screen. However, not everyone cared about this matter very much. Some people knew that they could talk about something serious at this time, such as Minerva McGonagall, all Hogwarts students, you should know that your defense against the dark arts professor next year is Mr. Gilderoy Lockhart, so school is about to start, don't forget to purchase your tutorials for the next semester. Including Standard Spells, Miranda Goshawk. Miranda Goshawk, it's my standard spells series. I didn't expect that Hogwarts is still using it as a textbook for so many years. It's an honor. Minerva McGonagall, of course, Ms. Miranda. This is a treasure of our wizarding world. McGonagall said this sincerely, and then breaking with a female ghost. Traveling with ghouls. Vacation with a hag. Traveling with trolls. Drifting with vampires. Wandering with werewolves. A Year with the Yeti of Tibet. One best-selling book after another, even the names are quite similar. Of course, this is not the point. The real point is that the author of these books is Gilderoy Lockhart. Garrick Ollivander, this is too exaggerated. Except for a book on standard spells, the rest are all your autobiography? Gilderoy Lockhart. Gilderoy Lockhart, what's the problem with this? Mr. Ollivander. I think good things should naturally be seen by everyone. Just like your wand, 90% of the wizards in the entire wizarding world use wands made by your family. Do you think this is unreasonable? To read exciting novels, go to Novel Network. Garrick Ollivander, this. It seems to make sense. Flourish Breast, I think what Mr. Lockhart said makes sense, and Flourish Breast also supports Mr. Lockhart. By the way, Flourish Breast has purchased 100 sets of Mr. Lockhart's complete series this afternoon, and you can enjoy a 10% discount if you buy the whole set. Boggins Shop. Fenja Wizard Clothing Shop. Zonko Joke Shop. Almost at the same moment, all the shops began to advertise on the light screen, and the frequency was almost the same as when Zhang Dong's computer was infected and invaded by advertising plugins in his previous life. Damn! I knew this day would come for these guys, but I didn't expect it to come so soon. Zhang Dong originally wanted to leave some time for those people to communicate and exchange ideas to relieve their longing for each other, which was also a good thing he did. As a result, this light curtain is almost an advertising wall. The point is, you Dante, do you know how to give me advertising fees? Zhang Dong thought so, and then he began to look at the rewards he had received. Congratulations on your video, shocking Jacob, you can get a reward, strength plus 10%. Congratulations on your video, shocking Credence, you can get a reward, magic plus 10%. Strength and strength 2-piece set, this is not surprising. Congratulations on your video, shocking Queenie Goldstein, you can get a reward, anti-Araco Cave Curse. Congratulations on your video, shocking Abernethy, you can get a reward, Pimple Curse Hot Roasted Spicy, Intermediate. Congratulations on your video, shocking Grindelwald, you can get a reward, the method of making a summoning mark. The method of making a summoning pendant. Grindelwald, you are still very nice. Zhang Dong looked at the reward he received and the method of making the mark. This kind of mark is still very useful. You can make a mark yourself and give it to someone. When she needs you, you can click on the mark and you can rush to her side immediately. This is very useful and useful. Zhang Dong took out a gold galleon at random, thought about it, put it down and replaced it with a silver cod. Transfiguration moves. The silver cod in his hand turned into a silver necklace with 6 petals of snowflakes. Perfect. Zhang Dong looked at his work with satisfaction, then put it on his neck and put it in his collar. Then Zhang Dong looked at the remaining rewards. Your video shocked Newt's Commander, you get a reward, spell True Colors, Advanced. Your video shocked Tina Goldstein, you get a reward, spell Legilimency, Intermediate. Needless to say, True Colors is a very practical spell, and it is so advanced that the Ministry of Magic is scrambling for it. As for Legilimency, Zhang Dong is a Legilimency, and with this intermediate Legilimency, without advanced Occlumency, it is impossible to resist Zhang Dong's peeping. And in the entire British world, there are only a handful of people who have advanced Occlumency. And the only person who has the ultimate Occlumency seems to be Snape. It must be said here that Occlumency is not as simple as the literal meaning of closure. If it is intermediate, perhaps you can only seal your brain and prevent people from seeing it, but at advanced level, you can selectively expose part of your memory to people for observation. In the end, you can even create memories to deceive the prying eyes of the sole recipient. Otherwise, when Snape was undercover in Voldemort, Voldemort looked over with the sole recipient and saw that Snape didn't let him see it directly, so he would have rewarded him with a Nevada. Your video shocked Serafina Pickery, and you got a reward, spell Obstacles, Advanced. Advanced Obstacles. As expected of the President of the Magic Congress, he is still capable. Looking at the reward he got, Zhang Dong also showed a satisfied smile. Okay, continue to make medicine. Zhang Dong thought happily, and then silently took out the herbs to continue to make potions. In addition to the Water of Life and Death and the Wolf's Bane potion, Zhang Dong mainly had to make a few bottles of Polyjuice potion. This thing is really useful at critical times. Last year, Voldemort used Polyjuice potion to deceive almost everyone, so Zhang Dong also prepared to make some. The preparation of the compound decoction is very troublesome, and it takes a month in total, mainly because of the lacewings in it. It takes 21 days to make the liquid medicine. And Zhang Dong has to be more serious, after all, the quality of the compound decoction seriously affects the efficacy and output of the medicine. The efficacy of the compound decoction is usually between 10 minutes and 12 hours, the effect of the Polyjuice potion Hermione brewed in her second year was only 1 hour, while the Polyjuice potion that everyone used during the 7 Harry Potters was suspected to be produced by Snape and lasted for at least 5 hours. At the same time, this potion cannot be taken casually. For example, if you add cat hair to it to turn into a cat, it will only turn the person who takes the potion into a half-human, half-cat creature, and it will last for several months. It took Hermione 2 months to return to normal after turning into a cat girl. So, Zhang Dong began his bitter journey of refining medicine, until 2 weeks later, when it was not long before school started. Zhang Dong, what have you been doing in your room recently? Zhang Qiu looked at Zhang Dong helplessly. I thought she could go out and play with Zhang Dong during this holiday, but 2 months of the 2.5 months of vacation have passed, and this guy has been staying in the room to make medicine. Is he going to spend his whole life with his crucible? Zhang Dong was also a little helpless. He was indeed a little addicted to refining medicine recently. The main reason is that he wants to use the holiday to make all the potions for the next semester and give them to Lupin for sale. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so busy. Looking at the aggrieved Zhang Qiu, Zhang Dong also said with a smile. Okay, I'm done with my work. I'll have some fun with you in the next period of time. By the way, how is your practice of fainting? Zhang Dong lent Dumbledore's notes to Zhang Chu when he came back. In 2 months, she has at least got started. During the period, under Harry's guidance, the group of young wizards mastered at least the intermediate level of Expecto Patronus and Patronus in half a year. Some of the awesome ones even mastered the advanced level of Expecto Patronus and reached the level of Patronus materialization, including Zhang Chu. Zhang Dong seems to remember that Zhang Chu's Patronus seems to be a swan, which at least shows that Zhang Chu's talent is not weak. Hearing Zhang Dong's question, Zhang Chu also proudly raised his slightly developed chest and said proudly, "Intermediate. I have mastered the intermediate level of fainting and the elementary level of petrification. Damn! I underestimated you." Zhang Dong silently gave Zhang Chu a thumbs up, then took off the snowflake necklace he made some time ago from his neck and handed it to Zhang Chu. "Then, here's your reward. What a beautiful necklace! But why did you give it to me?" Zhang Chu looked at Zhang Dong in confusion. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. If it wasn't for Zhang Dong, a boy gave a girl a necklace, she would have suspected that the other party had impure motives. "This is a little gadget I made myself. As long as you press the snowflake mark on it with your index finger, I will feel it and it will appear directly. So amazing." Zhang Chu looked at the necklace in front of him in surprise, and then handed it to Zhang Dong happily. "Put it on for me." "Yes." Zhang Dong took the necklace and then gently put it on Zhang Chu's swan-like neck. "By the way, school is about to start. Aren't you going to buy a set of Lockhart's books?" "Yes, then go ahead and bring me a set when you come back." Zhang Chu yawned and said, looking lazy. Looking at the other person's appearance, Zhang Dong couldn't help but feel helpless. Did he spoil his sister? "You're not going. I want to practice spells. My petrification will soon be intermediate." Zhang Chu can always find a reason for himself. Okay. What else can Zhang Dong say? Anyway, he also has to deliver medicine to Lupin. It's just a matter of convenience. After dinner, Zhang Dong apparat to Diagon Alley. However, this time he found that everyone looked at him in a completely different way. "Hello, Mr. Zhang Dong. Look. It's Zhang Dong. Mr. Zhang Dong, can I shake your hand? Mr. Zhang Dong, can you sign an autograph for me?" Along the way, almost everyone smiled at Zhang Dong, and one person even wanted to rush up and hug Zhang Dong. Of course, Zhang Dong dodged directly. Are these people crazy? Zhang Dong was confused, but when he bought a newspaper from the roadside and saw the exaggerated praise for himself on the headline, Zhang Dong finally understood what happened. Damn! I'm a celebrity. Headline: The Savior of Werewolves, the Future of the Wizarding World, the Second Order of Merlin winner Zhang Dong. The headline also had a single photo of himself and the name of the author of this newspaper. Retaski 593 Special. This is too exaggerated. Zhang Dong couldn't help but sigh. He really didn't expect that he would actually make the headlines. Wait, when did I get the Merlin second class medal? No one notified me. In fact, they did, but Zhang Dong was not yet 18 years old, so the badge was directly led by his guardian, Zhang Dad. As for why Zhang Dong was not told. Because Zhang Dong was obsessed with refining medicine during that time, of course he didn't know what happened. Wait! That guy who was so excited just now, couldn't he be a werewolf? Zhang Dong suddenly understood the other party's thoughts, but he just sighed helplessly. After all, this was also an indispensable thing. Zhang Dong continued to read on, and saw that in addition to the words written in the previous interview with him, there was actually an interview with his acquaintances in the newspaper. Minerva McGonagall, the Dean of Gryffindor, Zhang Dong is the best future student I have ever seen. If the rules did not allow it, I would even like to make him a prefect in advance. Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts and the holder of the Order of Merlin, first class, Zhang Dong is my favorite student. If there is one person who can lead the future of the wizarding world, I believe it must be him. Harry Potter, Zhang Dong's roommate and savior. Oh, Zhang Dong? He is one of my best friends. He is always omnipotent, and he is also the most powerful peer I have ever seen. Looking at these comments, Zhang Dong, who is so thick-skinned, felt a little embarrassed. But then again, when did you, Rita, interview these people? Zhang Dong put away the newspaper, and looking at more and more people surrounding him, he directly apparat to Nocturne Alley. Diagon Alley is too dangerous, and Nocturne Alley is more suitable for him. The people there are obedient and speak well, and the things are sold cheaply. He really likes it here. As usual, let's buy a batch of magic potions and store them up. Zhang Dong thought so, and then he began to wander around Nocturne Alley while looking for his target. Zhang Dong is no longer wearing a disguise or a mask like he did when he first visited Nocturne Alley. The main reason is that, first, his strength has improved a lot. Except for those at the level of Dumbledore and Voldemort, no one can stop him. Second, he can cover his face but not change his body shape. In other people's eyes, he is still a child. It is better to let them remember his face well so that they can learn from it in the future. Although there were indeed some blind people who bought medicine several times later, after Zhang Dong dealt with more than a dozen blind people and snatched their wands, the group of people never dared to trouble Zhang Dong again. However, they dare not trouble Zhang Dong, which does not mean that they dare not trouble others, such as, "Let me go." A boy about the same age as Zhang Dong was being pulled by an old woman, and there were several dark wizards with bad intentions beside him teasing him. The boy was helpless and felt that he was frightened by the scene here. "Harry? He's here to buy books too? Where's Hagrid? Shouldn't this be the time?" Well, Zhang Dong suddenly remembered that he had given so many magical animals to Hagrid to take care of, so how could he have the time to come here to find medicine to get rid of slugs? "By the way, I'll buy him one, as a thank you for taking care of so many magical animals for me." Hagrid can refuse it, but Zhang Dong can't refuse it. This is the most basic courtesy. Compared to this, "You are lost, kid." The old woman smiled at Harry, revealing her moss-covered teeth, which made people feel uncomfortable. "I'm not, thank you." Harry said so, and tried to break free from the other's hand. However, the woman's hand was so strong that Harry couldn't break free. "It's okay, I'm very helpful," the old woman said, and then she tried to drag Harry into the alley, but... "Sipley, I think you'd better let go now." Zhang Dong's voice sounded. To read the exciting novel, go to Novel Network. Hearing this voice, Sipley and Harry immediately turned their heads to look in the direction of the voice. I saw Zhang Dong's small figure appeared on one side of the street, and the moment he saw Zhang Dong, Harry smiled with surprise. "Zhang Dong!" But he immediately reacted again. This place doesn't seem to be a place for them at their age. Just when Harry was struggling whether to kick the old woman and then pull Zhang Dong away immediately. Instantly, the old woman called Sipley took out her wand and pointed it at Zhang Dong. At the same time, all the dark wizards who had been surrounding him and looking at him with eager eyes subconsciously stepped back and made way for Zhang Dong. It seemed as if Zhang Dong was the boss of this group of people. "It's you." Sipley looked at Zhang Dong in front of her, and her hand holding the wand was shaking a little. But she still insisted and shouted, "Don't go too far. The magic power of wizards will increase with age. There are so many of us here. You may not be able to deal with us before your magic power runs out." "Harry?" Harry was dumbfounded. "No, are you 1.3 saying this harshly? Why do I feel so guilty when I hear this?" At this time, Zhang Dong just glanced at the dark wizards around him, and then said disdainfully, "You? Are you in the same group with Sipley?" As soon as Zhang Dong finished speaking, a group of people hurriedly shook their heads. "No. I was just passing by." "Me too. I just came out to buy something." "Who is Sipley?" "I don't know him." "It's dark, I'm going home." In an instant, all the dark wizards fled as if they had met an auror, leaving Sipley alone at a loss. Until Zhang Dong walked in front of her, she didn't dare to cast a spell. "Get lost." "Ah!" The old woman fled in panic, as if she was afraid that her wand would also be snatched away by Zhang Dong. This boy is someone she can't afford to offend at all. The scene changes. In the house of the second Salem, Credence is looking for something. He crawls under a bed and sees a magic wand lying quietly underneath, which is obviously hidden by someone. "What are you looking for, Credence?" Suddenly, a voice sounded behind Credence. Credence turned around and saw the little girl, who was less than 10 years old, staring at him intently. Credence looked at the little girl with the magic wand he found and said, "Where did you get this from? Give it back to me, Credence. It's just a toy." The little girl argued. Unfortunately, they all understood that no matter whether the magic wand was real or fake, it should not appear in this house. Just at this moment, the door of the room was pushed open. "What are you doing?" Credence! Mary came in. She looked at the wand in Credence's hand and immediately roared angrily, "Take off the belt!" "Mom!" Credence wanted to say something. But the paranoid woman would not listen to his excuses. "I'm not your mother. Your mother is an evil, hateful woman. 03 That's mine." The little girl wanted to step forward and confess. But, she just came to Mary. Swish! The belt in Mary's hand was directly pulled to the ground by an invisible force. "What is this?" Mary was scared. She was just an ordinary person. Although she usually shouted that she wanted to burn all witches to death, in fact, she was still an ordinary person who knew nothing. Mary raised her head, but at this moment, waiting for her was only the eternal darkness that was coming. Boom! The dark silence devoured her body. Mary's howl made everyone in the room tremble. Until a muffled sound. Bang! Mary's body was thrown down from the upstairs by the silence. Her body was full of black lines. In a blink of an eye, the vicious woman just now turned into a corpse. Ernie Macmillan, it appeared. "I told you, this. Credence, Erdison." Ernie Macmillan, "Yes, Erdison. That's the Obscurus." Hagrid, "It should be called the Obscurus." Ernie Macmillan, "Yes, the Obscurus. It means the same thing." Seamus, "I guessed it right, but it's a pity there's no reward." Pansy Parkinson, "This woman is finally dead, she deserves it. Good death." Not to mention Pansy Parkinson, even Hermione beside Jong Dong couldn't help but clench her fist and wave it gently. The good and evil of a teenager are always so direct. And in Macy's department store, at this time, Newt and his group here didn't know what happened. They were quietly moving their bodies, following a floating the bag in the air moved slowly. Looking at the bag, Newt also explained, "The invisible beast loves peace, but it will jump up and bite people if it is angered." Hagrid, "The invisible beast, magic level XXXX. This magical animal is gentle and herbivorous, so it is generally not dangerous, and its hair is also a very good material for making invisibility cloaks. But its existence is difficult to detect, not only because it can be invisible, but also because it can predict the future." Fred, "Predict the future? Who is more powerful, it or Professor Trelawney?" Sybil Trelawney Neely, "My predictions are totally different from the invisible beast's. It can only predict a short period of time, while I can predict the future of several years or even decades." Minerva McGonagall, "But I still think the invisible beast's predictions are more useful." Flitwick, "I think so too." Trelawney, "Perhaps because it heard Newt's voice, or perhaps because it predicted Newt's appearance, the invisible beast revealed its body, looked back in Newt's direction, and then climbed directly upstairs." Newt and the others hurriedly followed him. Looking at Newt, the invisible beast took out various things from the bag slowly and placed them on the ground in front of him. Crystal gems, round pearls, and shining diamonds. Looking at the invisible beast's actions, Tina finally couldn't help asking, "What is it doing?" But Newt didn't answer. He just approached the invisible beast lightly, and then whispered to himself, "It's my fault. I thought I had confirmed it, but I still missed one." "What?" To read the exciting novel, go to Novel Network. Tina looked in the direction of Newt, and with the moonlight falling from the skylight, she finally saw the figure in the dark clearly. The blue-green body filled half of the attic, the thick and smooth snake body, but the head was like a majestic eagle. Bird snake. Bird snakes can stretch freely, so they can be big enough to fill the entire space. Newt gently stretched out his hand, and the bird snake also responded to Newt by gently stretching its head over. Jacob was stunned. He remembered that Newt said that this magical animal would resist when it was born, because poachers would often steal their eggs. That's why he was resisted when he wanted to touch his bird snake. 947. But at this moment, the bird snake seemed particularly well behaved, as if it was an obedient baby. "It's so cute." Hermione pointed at the bird snake on the screen and looked at Jong Dong excitedly. Subconsciously, she held the bird snake egg in her hand tighter. Hermione lowered her head and looked at her bird snake egg, looking forward to its appearance when it broke out of the shell. Originally, Hermione didn't like bird snakes that much. After all, she was a Gryffindor, and she naturally had a resistance to snakes. But now she had to admit that she was recruited. "I am convinced." "Who said the bird snake is a snake?" "A panda is not a cat. It is a bird. Whoever comes is a bird." The bird snake and Newt looked harmonious, but at this moment, the eyes of the invisible beast on the side lit up. It seemed to see that because Queenie's footsteps kicked a ball and made a loud sound, it also stimulated the young bird snake. And the next second, the crazy bird snake swept Jacob next to it with its tail while strangling him to death. Sure enough, Queenie kicked the ball, and the sound stimulated the bird snake. But this time, the bird snake did not strangle Jacob. Because the invisible beast ran directly to Jacob's back at the first time, and he protected Jacob's neck tightly. It was actually protecting Jacob. Hermione, this invisible beast is so warm. Hagrid, I've said it before, this magical animal is very obedient and kind. As the bird snake went berserk, Newt pounced on it. He grabbed the bird snake's neck tightly, and then shouted to Jacob and the others below. Find a bug, and a teapot. Bug? Teapot? Instantly, everyone started to search non-stop, and the bird snake was tumbling in the attic, and all kinds of floors and furniture fell down. Because of the tumbling, cockroaches were scared and crawled all over the ground. Just when Jacob wanted to catch a cockroach, a big stone fell from the ceiling and smashed it to pieces. Queenie was crawling all over the ground, but unfortunately, everything that fell from the sky fell down, blocking Queenie's way. Let me do it. At the critical moment, Jacob was still reliable. He pounced directly on the cockroach. Snap! In an instant, he caught the cockroach in his hand. And Tina finally found a teapot after searching through boxes and cabinets. The teapot was there, and the bug was there. However, the huge body of the bird snake directly separated Jacob and Tina at both ends. Zhongqiu, catching cockroaches with bare hands? You are such a hero. Hannah Abbott, I still think the invisible beast is so cute. Neville Longbottom, but, what should we do next? Jacob and Tina have been separated. Hermione, what's the big deal? Can't a spell be used to deal with it? Tina is an Auror, and this kind of small spell won't be difficult for her. The spell is difficult to have an effect on living things, but those are some large creatures or magical animals. Cockroaches are obviously not included in this list, otherwise it would not make sense for scabbers to fly. What a pity! Tina Goldstein, what a pity, I didn't have time to pull out my wand at that time. It is very difficult to cast the spell without a wand. Not everyone is Grindelwald or Dumbledore, otherwise it would be useless if they fainted. Jacob was squeezed by the bird snake and couldn't move, but the bird snake's attention was all on the cockroach in his hand. Jacob had no doubt that with the bird snake's reminder, if it bit him, not only the little cockroach, but also his arm would probably be bitten off. Throw the cockroach over there. Newt reminded in a low voice. This was their only chance. Jacob also took a deep breath. He used all his strength to throw the cockroach in his hand. Swish! Instantly, the bird snake turned around and chased after the bug. Anyone who has thrown a cockroach knows that this little thing can't be thrown too far. It's only 10 meters, and its body falls down. Tina also reacted. In an instant, she jumped over the bird snake's body, and then slid to the place where the cockroach fell. Caught the cockroach steadily. Ah! The bird snake screamed, and seeing its food enter the teapot, its body also jumped up, and then kept shrinking in the air, and finally turned into a small snake the size of a finger and entered the teapot. Snap! Newt reached out and covered the lid of the teapot, and then smiled at Tina. The magical animal bird snake was captured successfully. Fred Weasley, this jump should be given full marks. George Weasley, this catch is also the same. I wonder if Tina is a Quidditch player. You can tell she is very talented. Seamus, but Miss Tina is so brave. She dared to rush forward in the face of such a terrifying bird snake. You must be a Gryffindor. Tina, oh, sorry, there are no Gryffindors in Ilvermorny. I am a student of Thunderbird Academy. Ron Weasley, Thunderbird Academy, what is that? Tina Goldstein, Ilvermorny is divided into 4 colleges. I am from Ilvermorny Thunderbird Academy. Our college represents the soul of wizards. My classmates are all adventurous. And Queenie is a student of Ilvermorny Goblin Academy. She represents the soul of wizards. Students are all kind and delicate. Ron Weasley, our Gryffindor Hufflepuff sounds better. Harry Potter, I think so too. Hannah Abbott, so, is the story of magical beasts over? After all the magical beasts have been collected. Next, Senior Newt just needs to go to the Magical Congress to prove himself. Neville Longbottom, it shouldn't be. That Cleves feels wrong, and the matter of the obscurial has not been resolved. Newt's commander, indeed, the next thing is the most unforgettable thing of my trip to the United States. Even after many years, I still feel emotional when I think about it. Flourish and Blots is holding Gilderoy Lockhart's. Swish. Seeing that the advertisement was about to appear again, Zhang Dong directly disconnected the light curtain. Really, you guys want to take advantage of my light curtain's publicity for free again? Don't even think about it. After quietly putting away his phone, Zhang Dong began to check his gains this time. Your video shocked Naruk, you can get rewards, magic props, a lunar telescope. A lunar telescope is a prop used to study the moon, similar to a telescope, and is very useful in astronomy class. Your video shocked Jacob, you can get rewards, the recipe of the gurgling liquor. Oh? Not a strength reward? But this gurgling liquor. I don't drink. Forget it, when school starts next year, I'll ask Hannah Abbott, Hanyo Zhao, if the leaky cauldron wants it, and sell it to her at a low price. Your video shocked Credence, you can get rewards, magic plus 10%. Your video shocked Tina Goldstein, well, you can get a reward, fire condensation spell, intermediate. Your video shocked Queenie Goldstein, you can get a reward, spell, clear water like a spring, intermediate. Clear water like a spring Zhu. This spell made Zhang Dong's eyes light up. To read the exciting novel, go to Novel Network. On the surface, this spell is the same as the blazing fire, but one is summoned and the other is water. But if this spell reaches the ultimate, it can directly summon a small lake like Dumbledore vs. Voldemort. It can even turn water into a prison to imprison the opponent. It's very useful. The left hand is blazing fire, and the right hand is clear water like a spring. This reward is still good. Your video shocked Newt's commander, and you can get a reward, spell, apparition, advanced. It is detected that you already have apparition, advanced, and the proficiency of apparition is increased. No more? Not upgraded to the ultimate. Zhang Dong felt a little sorry. 2 advanced apparitions can't be upgraded to the ultimate? It can be seen how difficult the ultimate is. Your video shocked Gellert Grindelwald, and you can get a reward, spell, apparition, advanced. It is detected that you already have apparition, advanced, and the proficiency of apparition is increased. You get a reward, apparition, ultimate. Just after saying it, I was given an ultimate apparition. Apparition, ultimate, in addition to the ultimate forbidden apparition, the user can use apparition to reach any place in the continent, and the national band can also be crossed. This time, I can really take off. I can go wherever I want, even Hogwarts can no longer stop me. This is the ultimate in apparition. Of course, this is also related to Zhang Dong's talent for spellcasting as a house elf. After all, Dobby can also move freely in Hogwarts. Your video popularized the science of fantastic beasts, invisible beasts, and you received a reward of 677, predicting the future. It is detected that you already have the talent for prediction. In the fusion of the two, your talent for prediction is improved. Your video popularized the science of fantastic beasts, bird snakes, and you received a reward, animagus bird snakes. Another animagus. Still bird snakes? Looking at the reward, Zhang Dong counted his current animagus. Long-tailed hummingbird, adder, Norwegian Spinosaurus, bowtruckle, thunderbird, obscurus, bird snake, only 7, only 1/10 of the goal of completing 72 transformations has been completed. How about setting a small goal first, and doing 36 transformations? Zhang Dong thought so, and then he put away his mobile phone with satisfaction and looked at Lockhart in front of him. At this time, the Flourish and Blots bookstore had returned to calm. Maybe because they had just finished watching The Light Curtain, everyone's enthusiasm for Lockhart had somewhat diminished, which made Lockhart hate it. You guys, are you only enthusiastic for 3 minutes? No, I have to think of a way. Suddenly, Lockhart's eyes fell on Zhang Dong and Harry in the crowd, and his eyes lit up directly. Eek! Zhang Dong! Harry Potter! Lockhart rushed over and pulled Harry and Zhang Dong out with one hand each. Look who this is, the savior of the wizarding world Harry Potter, and the rising superstar Zhang Dong. The whole audience burst into warm applause, which made Zhang Dong very embarrassed. Lockhart, if you want to pull Harry, just pull Harry, why are you pulling me? There's no way, Zhang Dong just made the headlines, and his popularity is much higher than Lockhart's. How can Lockhart resist take advantage of his traffic? Lockhart looked at the flashing lights and shouted excitedly. Everyone, the two little wizards came here just to get my autobiography. I am magical, and now, I will give them this book, including my previous works. Lockhart said, and then took out 2 sets of books and gave them to Zhang Dong and Harry respectively. Holding this set of books, Zhang Dong came to Hermione helplessly, and then gave her this set of signed books, which surprised Hermione. Zhang Dong! You really gave it to me? That's right, I don't like Lockhart, I will buy another set of ordinary editions later. No, it should be 2 sets, and 1 set for my sister, and it will be done. Thank you. Zhang Dong. Hermione happily accepted the book, and then prepared to buy another set of ordinary editions for Zhang Dong. And Zhang Dong wandered around the bookstore to see if there were any interesting books to take back. However, before he took 2 steps, Malfoy's voice rang out, the famous Harry, he can make the headlines just by visiting a bookstore. And you, Zhang Dong, how did you develop the Wolfsbane potion? Malfoy really can't sit still, he started firing as soon as he showed his head. Harry didn't know what to say, but Zhang Dong was not the kind of person who would let anyone fire at him. He looked at Malfoy coldly and said, Malfoy, this is not a school. If I beat you up here, no one will come to save you. Zhang Dong. How dare you? I learned a lot of powerful magic during this holiday. Malfoy shouted loudly, but it sounded unconfident. Looking at Malfoy's appearance, Zhang Dong smiled and pointed a finger at him and said, then, do you want to try the magic I learned this holiday? You dare! You use magic outside of school. You will be expelled. I didn't use a wand, who can prove that I used a spell? Right. Zhang Dong raised his hand, and Malfoy's body flew in the air. Floating spell. Then he threw his hand, and Malfoy's body was thrown directly out of Flourish and Blott's bookstore by Zhang Dong. Well done! Ron couldn't help cheering for Zhang Dong. However, Malfoy did not fall to the ground after flying out. His body floated in the air and then gently fell to the ground. Someone saved him. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. Young wizards are so arrogant nowadays. Are they bullying their classmates here just because they have some talent? A black figure came out. He was tall and slender, with long platinum hair neatly draped behind him. He held a cane in his hand, and looked very British. Seeing this figure, Malfoy ran behind him and shouted, Father! It's him! It's Zhang Dong who has been bullying me at school. Listening to Draco's words to him, Zhang Dong naturally recognized the other party's identity. Draco's father, Lucius Malfoy. This is a pure-blood wizard and a high-ranking Death Eater under Voldemort. He is very powerful, at least much stronger than Quirrell, who was defeated by Zhang Dong before. In terms of strength, he is definitely a top wizard among wizards. However, Zhang Dong didn't care about his appearance. He just reminded Lucius and said, I think your son should not have told you that every time he was beaten, he was the first to start it. He just told some truths, and even if he was wrong, it is my business to punish him, not you. It seems that I have to teach you well on behalf of Dumbledore. Lucius looked at Zhang Dong in front of him. Of course, he would not be so domineering at ordinary times. But just now, he wanted to go to Borgin's shop to deal with a batch of black magic props, but there was one thing he didn't deal with. Now, it seems that there is a chance. Zhang Dong was not surprised at Lucius' provocation. After all, this guy was extremely arrogant. Dumbledore was in the room, and he dared to release Avatar to Harry Potter outside the house. If he wasn't arrogant, who would be arrogant? And Zhang Dong just beat his son in front of him. As an old father, it would be strange if he didn't do anything. However, Zhang Dong was not the kind of person who could be manipulated by others. Leviosa. Lucius waved his wand directly. He saw Zhang Dong's wandless spell, but so what? You are a 12-year-old boy. Can you be stronger than me with a wand? The advanced floating spell was activated, and Zhang Dong's body was directly lifted up. Good father! Malfoy shouted happily. He was extremely proud at this time. However, the lifted Zhang Dong disappeared directly in the air, as if he had never existed. Confusing spell. When? Lucius was stunned for a moment. Not only wandless, but also silent casting? What kind of pervert is this kid? Father! Behind me! Malfoy shouted in horror. Lucius, who reacted, turned back immediately. But as soon as he turned around, the light flew directly towards him. Apparition and your weapon. Armor. Bang. Lucius's reaction was still fast. In just a moment, he reacted. Armor. Advanced. The fainting light was directly blocked by the armor, and Lucius, who had no time to rejoice, immediately attacked again. Falling faint. Unfortunately, as soon as the light appeared, Zhang Dong's body disappeared in front of him with a twist. What a brilliant apparition! Is this really the strength of a second-year student? Lucius couldn't help but recall that he seemed to have misunderstood his son. He always thought that his son was bullied because he was too weak, but now it seems that he can't do anything to this kid, let alone his son. Father! Draco's reminder sounded again, and Lucius couldn't help laughing. Young man, your fighting style is still too childish. Teleporting behind me and casting magic again? How could I, who was well prepared, be fooled again? Turning around, Lucius immediately released his defensive magic again. Armor protection. Bright as day. Swish. A dazzling white light suddenly lit up, and the dazzling light made Lucius cover his eyes. Damn! This kid! Playing dirty! It is true that armor can defend against most attack magic, but bright as day is not attack magic, it is just a beam of light, the dazzling sunlight. And taking advantage of the moment when Lucius could not open his eyes, Zhang Dong quietly put on his big hat and took out the World Tree Spirit and then fall to the ground. Boom! The original advanced level of fainting has completely surpassed the advanced level under the enhancement of the two equipments, and Lucius's armor protection is only at the advanced level. Bang! The red light flashed, and Lucius, who had just opened his eyes, rolled his eyes and fainted directly. Father! Draco ran over quickly, and he kept shaking Lucius on the ground. However, how could Zhang Dong's fainting be so easily removed? Zhang Dong! Good fight, Zhang Dong! The Weasley twins on the side couldn't help cheering for Zhang Dong. Harry, Ron, and Hermione clapped for Zhang Dong desperately, and their hands were red. Even Ginny on the side showed a happy smile. Their cheers attracted the attention of Molly and Arthur. However, when they squeezed through the crowd and came to the door of Flourish and Blots, they saw that the unlucky Lucius had fallen to the ground, and the little Malfoy on the side was still shaking his body desperately. What are you talking about, kids? This is Lucius. Arthur widened his eyes. Although he hated Lucius Malfoy, he was still clear about his strength. He didn't even dare to say that he would win. Who defeated this guy? Did Dumbledore just pass by? Seeing Arthur's eyes, Fred and George quickly pointed at Zhang Dong and said, he did it. It has nothing to do with us. To read the novel, go to Novel Network. Well done. I mean, the attack was too heavy. In fact, it would have been enough to use Expelliarmus. Arthur had a clear understanding of Zhang Dong's strength. This guy's strength is definitely stronger than he thought. This is because Fred and the others didn't say that Zhang Dong didn't use a wand the whole time. Otherwise, Arthur might have regarded Zhang Dong as someone at the same level as Dumbledore. 0 Please give me flowers 0. But, should I cast a sobering spell to wake Lucius up? Arthur took out his wand, but his disgust for Lucius made him stop again. However, someone was faster than him. I saw a blue light, and I don't know when, Lockhart's figure has appeared next to Lucius. Oh! What's going on? Is it because of fighting for my autobiography? Don't worry, I have enough stock, no need to fight. Lockhart was very happy. At Gilderoy Lockhart's book sale, 2 powerful wizards fought for books, and one of them was knocked to the ground. This topic is very interesting. When he heard Lockhart's voice, Malfoy reacted immediately. He didn't like Lockhart, but he also knew that the other party was a very powerful wizard. So, he hurriedly said to Lockhart, Mr. Lockhart, please help my father. He was knocked unconscious by the stunning. Stunning? Don't worry, it's just a small spell. I once fought with a wizard who was proficient in stunning. He fainted dozens of times, but none of them could break my defense. Lockhart took out his wand with a smile, and then showed a confident smile to the people who gathered around him. Then, wake up quickly. Zhang Dong? Did he pronounce it wrong? If he remembered correctly, the awakening spell should be revived quickly. Should I remind him? Just as Zhang Dong was thinking, a blue light shot out from Lockhart's wand and fell on Lucius. Ah! Lucius exclaimed, and then the whole person flew up from the ground. First, he turned left 3.5 times in the air, then turned right 2.5 times, and finally slapped the ground. At this moment, all the bones in Lucius' body were broken because of this difficult action. The severe pain made Lucius stare at Lockhart in front of him with gritted teeth. I just need to sleep for a while. You are so bad, I guess I have to lie in the hospital for 10 days and half a month. But Lockhart smiled. Look, you are awake, I said I am very knowledgeable about the awakening spell. Lucius was sent to St. Mungo's hospital. Before leaving, he glared at Zhang Dong with murderous eyes. Zhang Dong felt that he was wronged. I just made you faint. It was Lockhart who put you in the hospital. Why didn't you glare at him or me? It was really unreasonable. Kid, you shouldn't hit him like that. As far as I know, Lucius is a very petty person. Arthur Weasley reminded Zhang Dong worriedly. But Zhang Dong didn't care at all. Just kidding, Lucius is not his opponent now. When he is discharged from the hospital and the first part of Fantastic Beasts is broadcast, he will be even more out of his reach. Looking at the confident Zhang Dong, Arthur felt that he seemed to be really old. But Fred and George said excitedly. Don't worry, Dad. Zhang Dong can even defeat Lucius. What can Lucius do to Zhang Dong? Children, not everyone who wants to harm others will fight with a wand, and Lucius is such a person. By the way, Zhang Dong, if I were you, I would immediately go to the Ministry of Magic to get an apparition certificate, otherwise, he will definitely use this method to deal with you. Thank you for your reminder, Mr. Arthur. Zhang Dong nodded. Indeed, Lucius is not a good person. If he reports himself to the Ministry of Magic, it will be very troublesome. It seems that I have to go to the Ministry of Magic. If a wizard wants to use apparition, he must first pass the apparition test held by the Ministry of Magic's Traffic Department, which is similar to a muggle's car driving license. Otherwise, if the Ministry of Magic finds out, he will be imprisoned in Azkaban for driving without a license. Zhang Dong doesn't want to go there for such a small matter. Although the things on him are enough to put him in Azkaban for several lifetimes. Zhang Dong, see you at the beginning of the school. Hermione waved goodbye to Zhang Dong. Her parents are still here, she can't follow Zhang Dong around. The Weasley family also waved goodbye to Zhang Dong. Before they parted, Zhang Dong took a special look at Ginny's cauldron, and found that there was a notebook in it without knowing when. Damn! Lucius! You guys have time to secretly put out the notebook when you are fighting with me? If you don't die, who will die? Actually, Lucius wanted to take advantage of the chaos to put the notebook on Zhang Dong, but Zhang Dong's apparition was so smooth that Lucius couldn't even hit him, so how could he put the notebook on him? He could only throw the notebook to the annoying Weasley family. Zhang Dong thought about whether he should secretly take the notebook away, but after thinking about it, he gave up. After all, he and Ginny were not familiar with each other, and it always felt too thick-skinned to ask for things rashly. Besides, nothing happened in the original timeline anyway, so he didn't care. At most, he would use a video to remind Ginny. Thinking like this, Zhang Dong also apparat to the outside of the Ministry of Magic. This time, he was really going to take the apparition certificate, and by the way, register for an animagus. The apparition test went smoothly. With Zhang Dong's level, it naturally didn't take much time. Although the examiner was surprised, there were still some geniuses of this level in history. On the other hand, the animagus registration was not so simple. Because, this registration must be completed in the Office for the Prohibition of the Improper Use of Magic. There are actually only a dozen people in this office, and Zhang Dong can only recognize 3 of them. Rufus Fudge, the nephew of Minister of Magic Cornelius Fudge. Zhang Dong knew him because he later made a Muggle subway disappear on February 8, 1999 because of a bet, which caused a sensation and he was fired by the Ministry of Magic. However, from this point, we can still see the strength of the other party. This transfiguration is definitely the ultimate. It's just that he doesn't know animagus. The second one is a young witch with grey hair, Mafalda Hopkirk, the person in charge of the International Statute of Wizarding Secrecy and the Underage Wizarding Restraint Act. She wrote the notification letter in the original timeline that Harry was misunderstood for using magic because of Dobby. And the last one. Little guy, whose child are you? You must have come to the wrong place. This is not the place you should come to. To read the violent novel, go to Novel Network. In front of Zhang Dong, a short and fat woman in pink clothes and pink pants came over. She didn't even bother to look at Zhang Dong, as if Zhang Dong was someone who deliberately came to her to make trouble. Zhang Dong also had a headache when he saw this woman. Damn, how could I forget her? Dolores Umbridge, director of the Committee for the Prohibition of the Abuse of Magic Office. This woman, her father was a cleaner in the Ministry of Magic, but she was unwilling to be the daughter of a cleaner, so she graduated from Slytherin at the age of 17 and joined the Ministry of Magic's Office for the Prohibition of the Abuse of Magic as an intern. Before she was 30, she became the director of the Office for the Prohibition of the Abuse of Magic. The first thing she did when she took office was to ask her father to resign. Whenever someone mentioned her father, she would directly deny it and claim that her father was a senior member of the Wilgamo family, and her mother was from the Selwyn family of pure blood 280. In short, there was not a single truth. But God has no eyes. Such a person later became the Professor of Defense Against the Dark Arts, the Senior Investigator of Hogwarts, the Headmaster of Hogwarts, and the Senior Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Magic. It can be said that she was second to none. Arrogant, greedy, highly self-centered, cold and ruthless, this is Umbridge. In short, Zhang Dong hated this woman very much, the kind that he hated physically. He wanted to go back directly now, but he stopped after thinking about it. He must register for Animagus. After all, if you don't register for Animagus, you will either be locked up in Azkaban or never be discovered. Unless you want to directly become an enemy of the entire Ministry of Magic, at least Zhang Dong doesn't have the strength to do so now. However, Zhang Dong would not expose all his cards directly. He would only show an Animagus of Viper. As for what to do if he uses other forms of Animagus in the future, I have already registered before. The Ministry of Magic does not stipulate that people who have registered for Animagus must also register with the Ministry of Magic once they learn other Animagus. If you don't have this rule, then there is no reason to target me. However, Umbridge didn't care about Zhang Dong in front of her at all. She waved her hand and said to the witch on the side, Mafalda, minors are under your charge. Take him out and don't make trouble here. Making trouble? Listening to this, 5.7 Zhang Dong was almost laughed at by this woman. You want to kick people out without any reason? Okay. Then everyone, give me proof. I came to register for Animagus, but was kicked out by this woman. If there are any problems in the future, it is none of my business. After saying that, Zhang Dong turned around and walked out. Before leaving, he did not forget to turn his head and look at Umbridge and said, It is a disaster for the wizarding world that the Ministry of Abuse of Magic has a director like you. After saying that, Zhang Dong left without looking back. Yes, unregistered Animagus will indeed be imprisoned in Azkaban if they are found, but I was kicked out even though I came. That is not my problem. Even if I go to court, I am not afraid. After all, we have a backer behind us. Dumbledore, I am not afraid of your Ministry of Magic. Xiaodong, take good care of Xiao Kaiu, she'll be in your hands. Zhang's mother and father held Zhang Dong's hand and asked. Looking at the solemn parents in front of him, Zhang Qiu couldn't help rolling his eyes. No, Mom and Dad, I'm the older sister. Why do you let my brother take care of me? It's obviously me who should take care of him. Hee. Zhang's mother couldn't help rolling her eyes at Zhang Qiu, then tapped her nose and said, It's good enough that you take good care of yourself. If it weren't for your great improvement in strength during the holidays, I wouldn't even want to sign the Hogsmeade consent form for you. Hogsmeade outside Hogwarts is the only place that little wizards can go to during school. For the safety of students, Hogwarts only allows students above the 3rd grade to go to Hogsmeade if their guardians sign a consent form. Zhang Qiu is in the 3rd grade this year, and Zhang Dong has to wait another year. When he mentioned this, Zhang Qiu proudly took out his parental consent form and shook it in front of Zhang Dong and said, Are you jealous? I can go to school now. If you want something in the future, your sister can buy it for you. 05. Looking at Zhang Qiu showing off, Zhang Dong also smiled and said, Don't worry, I'm not jealous at all. Isn't it just Hogsmeade? He has at least 9 ways to sneak through. That's right. 9 ways. At the end of the Gunhilda corridor in Gusmer on the 3rd floor of Hogwarts Castle, there is a hunchbacked one-eyed witch statue. The back leads directly to Honeyduke's candy store, the secret passage under the Whomping Willow leads directly to the Shrieking Shack, and the passage to the Room of Requirement leads directly to the Hog's Head. These are the 3 secret passages. He also has polyjuice potion, an invisibility cloak, and the animagus's viper, hummingbird and bowtruckle to sneak out, as well as his best apparition. So, Zhang Qiu thought that a letter of consent could make Zhang Dong envious. That was really a blind wish. Bye, Mom and Dad. Zhang Qiu pulled Zhang Dong and couldn't wait to set off for King's Cross Station. However, Zhang Dong was not prepared to sit on the greenskin for several hours to return to Hogwarts. Although the iced pumpkin juice on the train was quite good, Zhang Dong felt that it would be good to go back to the dormitory and make a cup of puer in advance. Zhang Qiu, have you learned the shadow spell? Of course. Zhang Qiu nodded. During this holiday, Dumbledore's notebook was in her hands, so she easily learned the intermediate level of fainting and the level of petrification and shadow spell. The shadow spell has no level. After all, this thing is a spell that follows the apparition user through time. A wizard with some talent can master it in a week. Take your luggage. After Zhang Dong finished speaking, he grabbed Zhang Qiu's hand, and then... Apparition. Zhang Dong took Zhang Qiu away from the Zhang family and went to Hogwarts. Ah! Looking at the 2 siblings who disappeared, Zhang's father couldn't help but sigh, the children have grown up. Mother Zhang also nodded with a look of sadness on her face, yes, I won't see them for nearly a year. Parting is always sad. Dad Zhang took Mother Zhang's hand to comfort her, and then... Swish! Zhang Dong's figure suddenly appeared in front of the 2 again. Ah! Xiaodong, why are you back? Is there a problem with the apparition? Father Zhang was suddenly startled. No, Zhang Qiu is already in Hogwarts. What are you doing? Father Zhang didn't understand. Is Zhang Dong reluctant to leave them and wants to spend more time with them? Then, they saw Zhang Dong running upstairs and taking out a box, then opening it and taking out the dusty wand inside and saying, I haven't used it for a long time, I almost forgot about it. After saying that, he directly kicked his 9.5-inch, poplar wood, phoenix feather wand into his arms, and then disappeared into the room of the old Zhang family with the apparition. Dad Zhang. Mom Zhang. Damn, what's the point of being sad? This kid is so skilled at apparition, he can come back anytime he wants. What a waste of mood. Zhang Dong didn't know what the old couple was thinking. Zhang Dong, who had returned to Zhang Qiu's side, took out Zhang Qiu's handkerchief and wiped his dusty wand, then said to Zhang Qiu with satisfaction. Okay, let's send the luggage back to the dormitory first, and then go to report to the professors. Yes. Zhang Qiu nodded, and then he was about to carry the box back to his room. Unfortunately, just as they were about to leave, they ran into a white-haired old man walking his bird. It was the headmaster of Hogwarts, Dumbledore. Even Dumbledore was stunned when he saw Zhang Dong suddenly appear. To read the exciting novel, go to Follow Novel Network. What's going on? I just saw it wrong, that was apparition? Dumbledore was not surprised at all that Zhang Dong could apparition, but this is Hogwarts. The deans of the 4 major colleges jointly arranged the anti-apparition spell. The restrictions of 4 legendary wizards. Even Voldemort can't use apparition here, what's going on with you? Long time no see, Professor Dumbledore. Zhang Qiu immediately greeted Dumbledore politely. Dumbledore first smiled at Zhang Qiu, then immediately looked at Zhang Dong and asked, what was that? Apparition? How did you manage to appear directly in Hogwarts? Your notes, have you forgotten? Zhang Dong blinked, looking like you know it. Dumbledore couldn't help but roll his eyes. Nonsense, what's in my notes that I don't know? He just said to Zhang Qiu kindly, Miss Zhang Qiu, Professor Flitwick is in the Ravenclaw common room, you can go directly to him. As for Zhang Dong, I just happened to have something to do with Professor McGonagall, so I'll take him with me. Okay, Professor Dumbledore. Zhang Qiu nodded politely, and then left here obediently. Watching Zhang Qiu leave, Dumbledore came to Zhang Dong with the bird and whispered, do you have anything to tell me? Hearing this, Zhang Dong couldn't help but look at Dumbledore meaningfully. Dumbledore once asked this question to 2 people, one was Tom Riddle and the other was Harry Potter, and both of them gave the same answer. Zhang Dong, no, it's okay. The moment Zhang Dong finished saying this, he noticed that although Dumbledore's expression did not change, there was still a hint of disappointment in his eyes. At this time, Zhang Dong continued, if nothing unexpected happens, Harry will say this to you again this year. Dumbledore's eyes lit up instantly. After so many years, he finally got a different answer. It's just. Harry will say it to him again, what does this mean? Damn it, can't these prophets speak clearly? Trelawney is like this, and Zhang Dong is also like this. If I'm not really curious, I will beat these prophets every time I see them. Dumbledore looked at Zhang Dong in front of him speechlessly, wishing he could open his head to see how many secrets he was hiding. Looking at Dumbledore's eyes, Zhang Dong said helplessly. Principal Dumbledore, I am a natural soul reflexologist, and I have also studied the brain occlumency technique. Soul reflexology is of little use to me. Why would I use soul reflexology on my students? Dumbledore felt that his morality was questioned. But he had to admit that he did have a little intention of using soul reflexology just now. But Dumbledore suddenly stretched out his hand and said to Zhang Dong. Zhang Dong, how about we play a game? Guess what's in my hand? If you guess it right, I'll give it to you. Listening to Dumbledore's words, Zhang Dong was helpless. Is this to test my ability to predict? Although Zhang Dong couldn't use legilimency to detect Dumbledore's mental activities, he could guess what Dumbledore was thinking with his toes. After a vacation, Dumbledore had some new understanding of Zhang Dong. Of course, he couldn't guess Zhang Dong's identity as a time traveler and system owner. After all, people's guesses can only be judged based on known knowledge. In Dumbledore's eyes, Zhang Dong was more like a great prophet with a prediction ability far beyond Trelawney and Grindelwald, and the light screen was more like some kind of projection magic. Projection magic is not uncommon in the wizarding world, nor is it a difficult magic, such as Grindelwald. When he gave a speech at Lestrange Cemetery decades ago, the projection he used was a 6D immersive surround stereo theater, which was more magical than Zhang Dong's light screen. But an incident during the summer vacation made Dumbledore feel that there was a problem with his guess. That is, how did Zhang Dong let the ghosts of the underworld communicate with people in the world? Dumbledore could only think of two methods. One was the Resurrection Stone, the Deathly Hallows that he had not yet possessed, which had the power to communicate with the dead. The other was that Zhang Dong had also defeated the god of death, just like the three brothers of the Deathly Hallows, and had gained some power from him. Dumbledore certainly knew the legend of the Deathly Hallows, but many people regarded this legend as a story. A considerable number of people believed that the Deathly Hallows were actually made by the three brothers, and they made up the legend of the Deathly Hallows in order to create a gimmick for their work. However, Dumbledore heard a piece of news from a former principal in the principal's office. It was said that one of his seniors had defeated the god of death once, and that senior looked exactly like Zhang Dong you-know-who. After hearing this news, Dumbledore felt a chill on his back. Especially a few days ago, when he went to Zhang's house to see Zhang Dong, he got a piece of news from Zhang Dong's parents' minds through an accidental legilimency, that is yes. Zhang Dong is not their biological child, but a baby they found when they came to Europe. Yes, I should have thought of it long ago. Zhang Qiu is only 1 year older than Zhang Dong. Zhang Qiu's birthday is the beginning of autumn in China, while Zhang Dong's birthday is the beginning of winter in China, which means that the two are only 5 months apart. Excluding the 10 months of pregnancy, the efficiency of Zhang's father and mother is too high. It's almost comparable to the Weasley family. But even in the Weasley family, Fred and George were born on April 1, 1978, which is almost 2 years away from Ron Weasley who was born on March 1, 1980. Then the question is, who is Zhang Dong? This is England, not China, why did he appear here in the form of a baby? Dumbledore only felt that he was being used by someone, so he could only use his own method to confirm some things first. Zhang Dong didn't know what Dumbledore was thinking about. He looked at Dumbledore's hand and said casually, Dean Dumbledore, I'm really not interested in your pile of cockroaches. Besides, you've already caught them with your hands. How can I eat them? After that, Zhang Dong took his luggage and went to report to Professor McGonagall. What's the matter? Can he really expect Dumbledore to take him to report? Looking at Zhang Dong's back, Dumbledore silently spread his hands and looked at the pile of cockroaches in his hands in silence. After a long time, he walked silently towards the principal's office, to read the exciting novels, go to Follow Novel Network. It seems that I have to ask Principal Black something. On the other side, Zhang Dong, who had reported to Professor McGonagall, had already returned to his common room with his box. Of course, this also shocked Professor McGonagall. She didn't know where Zhang Dong came from. It was not until Zhang Dong took out his newly obtained apparition license that Professor McGonagall suddenly realized what was going on. Of course, she did not forget to remind Zhang Dong. You have given me such a big surprise just after the start of the school year, but do not use apparition in the courtyard. There are restrictions here, and it is easy to split if you use it forcibly. She thought that Zhang Dong had teleported to Hogsmeade before entering Hogwarts, so she did not think too much about it. She was just shocked that Zhang Dong had mastered apparition in his second year, which even fifth-year students might not be able to master. Zhang Dong put away his luggage, then used apparition to go to the kitchen next to Hufflepuff, found 2 plates of food that the house elves had just made, and returned to the common room to taste the delicious food. I wonder if I can teach the house elves Chinese food. I still prefer Chinese food to British food. Zhang Dong took out his mobile phone while eating. It's a bit boring to eat without food, so I'll just play a video to accompany the meal. It just so happens that there is only the last part of Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. It's about time to release it. Thinking so, Zhang Dong clicked his play button. Then, the huge light curtain appeared in the sky again. At this time, on the train from King's Cross Station to Hogwarts, students were happily chatting. After all, they hadn't seen each other for 2.5 months, and everyone was very happy to talk about what they had seen and heard in the past few months. Only Hermione was not very happy. Zhang Dong didn't get on the train, and Hermione already knew that he could apparate. But what about Harry and Ron? You two can also apparate? What a joke! Just when Hermione was unhappy, Neville's shocked voice suddenly sounded beside her. Look at the sky. The light screen appeared. Ah! It's Harry. Harry is in the sky. Seamus, Harry is on the light screen again? This is not strange, I have a single special. However, Neville's voice became louder. It's not Harry's video. It's him. He and Ron. They are flying in the sky. Hey? Instantly, all the little wizards' eyes lit up. Sure enough, life in Hogwarts is more interesting. Harry and Ron are in the sky. Hermione ran to the window. Not only her, but all the wizards in Hogwarts ran to the window to watch the excitement. In the sky, a car was flying in the sky and Harry and Ron were sitting in the car and waving at them desperately. Damn! Fred and George were instantly excited, and then their faces were full of jealousy. On the first day of school, driving a flying car to school. And chasing the train under the gaze of all classmates. This is too cool. Fred, Harry. Ron. Look here. Seamus, Ron, can you drive the car over and take me in? I want to ride in the car too. Neville, Ron, Harry, be careful, you will be smashed into meat patties if you fall down. The little lions of Gryffindor were very excited. However, Harry and Ron's faces were full of anxiety and tension. They also want to take the train. Flying in the sky for hundreds of years, they will fall down if they are not careful. Harry almost fell down and was smashed into pieces just now. Fortunately, Ron pulled him back. And they haven't eaten or drunk anything yet. God knows how much they miss the fat witch who pushes a cart to sell iced pumpkin juice and strange beans on the train. Oh my god! Hermione looked at the 2 people in the sky and was quite helpless. I was wondering why I didn't see you 2 on the train. It turns out that you drove to school by yourself. Really, why didn't you call me for such an interesting thing? No, how can you do such a dangerous thing casually? And you really won't be late? What if you are expelled from Hogwarts? At this moment, Hermione just wanted to pull the 2 down, but unfortunately, her levitation spell was only elementary. This summer, she has been preparing for the 2nd grade courses and learned a lot of new magic, so she is now helpless. According to statistics, Hermione used the most spells in the entire Harry Potter series, using 49 spells in the novels and movies combined, while Harry, as the protagonist, only used 46 spells. She learned Repair, Aloho, Levitation, Blazing, Petrification, Bright as Day, Tarantella and Transfiguration in her first year, but unfortunately, none of them were as powerful as Harry's. What should I do? If Zhang Dong was here, he would be able to save them easily. Hermione thought of Zhang Dong the first time, but unfortunately, Zhang Dong was sitting in the Gryffindor lounge, drinking iced pumpkin juice, eating French fries and looking at the light curtain. At this time, the light curtain also lit up. As the light curtain lit up, the attention of all wizards fell directly on it. Seamus, Ron. Drive the car further away. You are blocking our view of the light screen. Harry, you are blocking our view of the light screen and we thought they had a mole on their face, it's ugly. Listening to the complaints from the people below, Harry and Ron could not help booty can't stop cursing. Are you guys going too far? Do you think our flying car is so easy to control? And Senior Wood, don't just watch. Can't you bring a few Gryffindor Quidditch players with brooms to help us? Not everyone hates Harry and Ron for blocking their view. In the freshman carriage, a cute little boy was holding a camera and taking crazy photos of Harry and Ron. Beside him, a boy asked curiously, "Colin, what are you filming?" Listening to the boy's words, Colin, who was filming, said excitedly, "Of course I'm filming Senior Harry. It's great that I can film such a famous person like Senior Harry just after coming to Hogwarts. Well, I also feel that filming Senior Harry is more interesting than watching the light screen. The main thing is that my grandparents have told me the story in the light screen more than 800 times since I was a child." Hogwarts 92nd freshman, Colin Creevy, Rolf's Commander. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. However, not everyone is like Rolf's Commander, who has the person telling stories every day. Others are still looking at the light screen in the sky with great excitement, and at this time, the picture in the light screen also appears. In Newt's suitcase, Newt has placed the invisible beast and the bird snake. Seeing that everyone has returned, Newt is also relieved. Newt. Queenie came over from the side, but when she passed the door, she saw a photo of a woman on Newt's table. Queenie couldn't help asking, "Who is she?" Newt said without raising his head, "No one." But Queenie is a natural soul reader. "Rita Lestrange? I've heard of this last name. Please don't read my mind." Newt said a little uneasily. No one likes to show their inner pain in front of others, especially people like Newt who have some social phobia. Queenie was silent for a while, but did not stop her actions. And Newt could naturally feel it. After all, Newt was also a powerful wizard. "Sorry, I told you not to do this. Sorry, I can't control it." When the heart is hurt, it is always easier to be seen through. "I'm not hurt. That was a long time ago." Colin Creevy, it seems that Senior Newt is also a man with a story. Colin is a child with a strong sense of news. If he hadn't died in the decisive battle with Voldemort, he would have become a reporter of the Daily Prophet or a dissenter. Rolf's Commander on the side also nodded continuously. He took back what he said before. Grandpa didn't tell him this story. On the light screen, others were not very interested in Newt's story. Their attention was focused on another place. Sirius Black, Lestrange, it's a last name worth remembering. Bella Lestrange, I know what you want to say, but you are still like me? Imprisoned in Azkaban. James Potter, imprisoned in Azkaban? What happened, Black? Why were you imprisoned in Azkaban? Sirius didn't answer, because, with the appearance of the light curtain, he had already started trying to escape. Now, he must not attract the attention of others. If others strengthen their guard on him, it would be too pitfall. He must quietly lurk and look for opportunities, and then successfully escape from prison to surprise the world. Hermione, Lestrange? I heard about this family from Zhongdong. Malfoy, of course you should have heard of it. This is a sacred pure-blood family. Zhongdong, so what? Is this something to be proud of? If you really care about bloodline, why don't you want to call Ron uncle? Malfoy, hey? What are you talking about? Ron, Zhongdong, don't talk nonsense, I don't know when I have such an annoying hateful brother. Arthur Weasley, that. Zhongdong really didn't say anything wrong. Back then, Cedrel Black of the Black family married your grandfather Septimus Weasley, who is also their grandmother. I am their youngest son who was born in their old age, and Malfoy's mother is Narcissa Black. In terms of seniority, I am indeed your cousin, Ron. Although I don't really want to admit it myself. In the car, Ron was overjoyed watching this scene. He is Malfoy's uncle. This is really a gratifying thing. So he turned his head and said to Harry, "That's great, Harry. When we return to Hogwarts, I will pull Malfoy's clothes and let him call me uncle." "That's right. You must do this." Harry also nodded continuously. He didn't know at all that his godfather Sirius Black was actually Narcissa's brother. Molly Weasley, and Caligula Black, your grandmother Cedrel's biological sister, married Harfang Longbottom, so you and your classmate Neville Longbottom are also relatives. Neville Longbottom, doesn't that mean that Malfoy is also my nephew? No. Draco Malfoy, shut up. I'm not your nephew. Lucius Malfoy, okay, why are you talking about these useless old calendars? The 28 pure-blood families are originally a circle. If you insist on talking about seniority, it will become a mess. Let's look at the light curtain quickly. Lucius quickly changed the subject. If he continued to talk about it, wouldn't he be one generation lower than Arthur Weasley? Don't even think about it. Queenie looked at Newt in front of her. She said quietly, you and her are very close. Newt did not answer directly, he just said, we both don't fit in at school, so close? For so many years? She only uses others, and you need a woman who knows how to give. Queenie's meaning is very clear. She has seen the sparks between her sister and Newt, and she wants to help her sister, but her next words are interrupted. What are you talking about? Tina walked over directly. Newt said quickly, nothing, we are talking about school. School. Hearing this topic, Jacob became interested. There are schools in the wizarding world. Queenie smiled and said as soon as she saw Jacob, of course, Ifemerny, the best magic school in the world. Nonsense. The best school in the world is obviously Hogwarts. McGonagall, Flitwick, Harry, Ron, Hermione, from professors to young wizards, even Snape said this answer at the same time. For a moment, the entire light screen was filled with the barrage of the best school in the world is Hogwarts. Of course, there were also a few barrages of the best school in the world is obviously Azkaban. Such barrages were directly ignored by everyone. No need to think about it, it must be sent by the group of Death Eaters, haha. Not only them, but Newt in the light screen also answered in this way. The best school in the world is obviously Hogwarts. Newt said so. Listening to Newt's words, the two sisters were about to refute, and the Thunderbird in the sky, which had been quiet, suddenly became agitated. Ah! The bird's cry resounded through the sky, and the entire box space was thundering. Looking at this scene, Newt's face changed. Danger, it predicted the danger. The Thunderbird also has the power of prophecy, but it is more prominent in predicting danger, which is a passive skill. Looking at this scene, Zhang Dong suddenly thought of something. I already have a good talent for prophecy, and I can also transform into a Thunderbird in the form of an animagus Thunderbird. If I predict in the form of an animagus Thunderbird, will my prophecy ability be improved again? Zhang Dong felt that he had a lot of potential, and he planned to give it a try another day. 0 Please give me flowers. While the Thunderbird was agitated, on the other side, in the base of the second Salem, Graves excitedly moved here. Looking at the destroyed room and the body of Mary with black lines on her face on the ground, Graves already understood what had happened. He hurried towards Credence. At this time, Credence was still holding the mark representing the Deathly Hallows. His hands were shaking, as if he was frightened by what had just happened. Graves hugged Credence and kept comforting him, it's okay, the Silent One appeared? Is it your sister? Where is she? She is in danger now. However, Credence seemed not to hear it, he just kept saying, help me, please help me. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. Graves punched him, and Credence barely regained some sanity. Credence brought Graves to a room, and then he said, Mom adopted Modesty here, and she missed it very much. Found it? Graves smiled. He had waited for so long and finally found the Silent One. Seeing that the task was completed, Graves finally showed his true colors. You are a squib, Credence, I saw you at first sight. You will know when you get there. What? Credence looked at Graves in front of him in disbelief, as if he didn't understand what he meant. And Graves just responded to him lightly. I don't need you anymore. After that, Graves walked directly into the room, leaving Credence lying there as if he had lost all his strength. Draco Malfoy, I know it. This squib will definitely end up like this. A squib is a squib. What qualifications does it have to break into the wizarding world? Filch, what did you say? Draco Malfoy. Malfoy, who was on the train, shrank his neck subconsciously. It's over. Everyone knows that Filch hates wizards like them the most, and he has offended him. It seems that he won't have a good time this semester. Graves just coldly announced to Credence that he didn't need him anymore, and turned around and walked into the room with a gentle and kind look. Don't be afraid, Modesty, I came here with your brother Credence. However, after Graves said this, Modesty became even more scared. Bang! Bang! Behind Graves, the thick wall suddenly became full of cracks, and then the wall collapsed, revealing Credence's grey face. Looking at this scene, Graves didn't understand that he had recognized the wrong person. The silent one was not a child under 10 years old at all. He was right next to him. He was Credence. Credence, I think I owe you an apology. However, the 037 who responded to him was only Credence's extremely disappointed voice. You trusted you so much, I regarded you as my friend, I thought you were different from them. You can control it. Credence. Graves looked at Credence in front of him in shock. That's the Obscurus. It is said that no Obscurus can live beyond the age of 10. And now, Credence has overturned this view. Moreover, he can also control the Obscurus in his body. He is a miracle. Unfortunately, Credence only responded with one sentence. But I don't want to, sir. Buzz. Instantly, Credence's body turned into a ball of black mist. It was dozens of times larger than the Obscurus in Newt's box. With just one impact, it rushed out of the house, and everything in its path was shattered. The real Obscurus appeared. Draco Malfoy, how could it be? How could that Obscurus be him? Hagrid, didn't you say that Obscurus usually don't live past 10 years old? Albus Dumbledore, but there is always someone in this world who can surpass this miracle, right? James Potter, so, Graves was also fooled, ha ha ha. But looking at his reaction, it's really a man who can bend and stretch. Grindelwald, that's a man who doesn't care about trivial matters. James Potter, hey? You speak for him like this, could this person be your fanatic? Grindelwald, haha, young man, why not be bolder, you are a student of Gryffindor. Be bolder? What do you mean? Everyone didn't have time to think too much, because their attention was attracted by the crazy Momo in the light screen. Boom. Boom. The crazy Credence kept shuttling through the entire new waste. Wherever he passed, the walls collapsed, the ground was broken, and even the passing vehicles were directly rolled up to the sky and smashed down. He no longer hides himself, he wants to vent. He wants everyone to see the real Momo. Harry Potter, is this the power of the Obscurial? It feels even more terrifying than Voldemort. Voldemort, hey! It's just an Obscurial. You dare to compare it with me? This kind of thing, I can turn it into ashes with one Avada Kedavra. Dong, hey? So your Avada is so powerful? Then why are you the only wizard who can't kill people with Avada? Fuck. Voldemort just wants to curse. Avada Kedavra is a killing curse. It's one of the 3 unforgivable curses. He even practiced it to the ultimate. In the end, he used it twice. He used it all. Who can he go to for justice? The Obscurus is still running rampant. Newt, who just came out of the suitcase, is watching this scene. He knows that the Magic Congress will not let this Obscurus go. He handed his beloved suitcase to Tina, and then took out a booklet and handed it to her and said, "If I can't come back, take care of my animals." Then he disappeared from the spot with a teleportation. He couldn't watch the Obscurus die in front of him. Newt. Tina handed the box and booklet to Queenie without hesitation and said, "Take care of them." Then he also disappeared with a teleportation. "Be sure to take it, dear." Queenie also handed the box directly to Jacob and wanted to apparate away. Unfortunately, Jacob grabbed Queenie directly. "No, no, no, you said I'm one of your own." Jacob knew it was dangerous, but he resolutely decided to face it with Queenie. Queenie turned her head and looked at Jacob. She saw Jacob's life and how he charged fearlessly in the face of bullets and rain in the war. She understood that he was so brave and fearless. To read the novel, go to Falu Novel Network. She lovingly put her hand on the other's cheek. At this moment, she realized that she really fell in love with this fat but cute no-mage. Hannah Abbott, Senior Newt is so kind, he really loves every magical creature, even at this time, he still wants to save this Obscurus. Cornelie Fudge, kind? Well, although I want to praise Newt's bravery and kindness, I still have to say that according to the Wizarding Statute, Credence has seriously leaked the existence of the Wizarding world, and he has also killed several Muggles with his own hands. Such an existence does not need to be saved, but should be directly eliminated. Hannah Abbott, but, it was that man who mocked him first, and Mary, she abused Credence every day, he was just resisting. Cornelie Fudge, should he die for mocking him? Should he die for abusing him? Well, Mary does deserve to die, I might not be able to bear it. In short, Credence can resist, but he must resist within the scope of wizarding laws. He should beat up the Counselor 2.0 or Mary when no one is around. Or he should have gone to the Micus for help instead of killing people himself. This is not his right. Newt's commander, Minister Fudge, do you think the Congress at that time could have allowed such a powerful obscurial to exist? Cornely Fudge, that is also the choice of the Micus. I believe the Micus can handle it properly. This is a typical case of talking without any pain. Based on the performance of the Micus in the light screen, would they help Credence? If Credence confessed, the best result might be to be locked up in a secluded place with no one under 24-hour supervision until death. Credence is definitely not innocent, but he is also a product of the tragedy of the times. The black cloud rushed into Central Park, and the splashing magic power made the people around panic and flee in all directions. However, the cloud did not mean to stop. It still hovered here like a nightmare, destroying everything around it without any concealment. Graves looked at the hovering obscurus, and he was still trying to save it with words. Credence. With such a thing in your body, you have survived for so long, you are a miracle. Credence. Come with me, we will stand at the top together. However, the only response to him was the terrible blow of the angry obscurus. This blow contained anger, and even a strong man like Graves was knocked to the ground. Ron Weasley, Graves is still strong. Mary and the Counselor were killed by the obscurus, but he just fell down. Percy Weasley, there are always some geniuses in this world. Obviously, Graves is such a person. And in the future, I will definitely surpass him. Gellert Grindelwald, well, then you do your best. Neville Longbottom, I still don't understand. Isn't the obscurus unable to live more than 10 years old? Why can this Credence? Hermione Granger, you should buy a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I just read it. It says that obscurus usually does not live more than 10 years old, unless the other party has extremely strong talents and powers, but even so, it can only suppress the obscurus. The obscurus still cannot live more than 20 years old. Newt. Save him! Tina shouted, and then rushed directly to Graves. Fractured into pieces. Tina came up with 3 high-level split spells. After all, she was a former elite Auror, so her strength was naturally very good. However, facing Tina's attack, Graves just waved his wand and blocked them completely. Armor protection. Seeing that her attack was useless, Tina went all out. And facing Tina's attack, Graves also stopped defending and attacked instantly. Crackling. 2 spells collided in the air, and white magic sparks began to collide like electric currents. Tina. You always appear when you shouldn't. Graves waved his hand, the floating spell was activated, and a car flew directly to Tina. Tina quickly dodged, interrupting the welding duel between the two. Hermione Granger, this Graves is getting stronger and stronger. Tina's attacks can't do anything to him. Ron Weasley, no offense, but is it possible that Graves is stronger because Miss Tina is a little weak? Queenie Goldstein, I think I should introduce my sister, Tina Goldstein, an elite Auror of the United States Magical Congress. Not long after the incident in the Light Curtain, my sister became the chief Auror of the Magical Congress. Tina N.A. Goldstein, Queenie, don't say that, I'll be embarrassed. There are always people who underestimate Tina because of her downfall in the first movie, but in fact, Tina is very strong. Think about it, not everyone is qualified to fight Grindelwald for several rounds and come back alive. On the other side, Credence, who turned into Obscurus, was still bumping around, like a black tornado. And a figure appeared in front of him, it was Newt. Credence. I can help you. Before Newt finished speaking, the tornado transformed by Obscurus swept towards Newt. But Newt didn't dare to take it head-on, he dodged the attack with an apparition. The Obscurus was still charging forward. And around it, Aurors had appeared one by one. To read the violent novel, go to Novel Network. Split into pieces. Powerful magics shot at the Obscurus. More than 20 Aurors appeared at the same time, and more than 20 high-level magics shot at the Obscurus. Even the powerful Obscurus could only choose to flee when facing so many wizards at the same time. However, it was not just wizards. At this time, more than 20 fully armed United States soldiers also appeared here. Fire! Bang, bang, bang! Dense bullets swept at the Obscurus. Unfortunately, ordinary bullets could not hurt the invisible Obscurus. The black tornado swept the gravel and cars towards these soldiers. It directly smashed these United States soldiers and made them flee. And this was not the end. The storm of the Obscurus suddenly rushed into the sky and slammed down to the ground. Boom! All objects on the ground were destroyed. Even the hard ground was smashed into a deep hole, directly reaching the subway below. Arthur Weasley, is that the weapon of the Muggles? Metal wands? They don't look very powerful. Dong, it's actually quite powerful, but the Obscurus, which is a non-substantial being, is not afraid of physical attacks. An old wizard in China once said that magic can only be defeated by magic. Albus Dumbledore, does magic have to be defeated by magic? That's a very reasonable statement. If there is a chance, please introduce him to me. Dong, there will be a chance, definitely. Well, Senior Newt's apparition is so smooth. And the Aurors too. Arthur Weasley, apparition is a must-have magic for Aurors. Percy, if you want to join the Ministry of Magic, you have to work hard to learn apparition. Percy Weasley, 847. Don't worry, Dad. I have already mastered the basics of apparition. As long as I practice more, I can reach the intermediate level. I am confident that I can reach the advanced level before graduation. Umbridge, you can apparite to the advanced level at the age of 18? Arthur Weasley, are you kidding? But it's okay. I learned it the other day. It's very interesting to meet a 12-year-old boy who wants to register for Animagus. Don't you think it's interesting? Haha. Minerva McGonagall, Umbridge, please don't doubt things you don't understand. Percy Weasley is the most talented student in our Hogwarts in the past 4 years. He got 12 O's in the 5th year OWL's exam. If I remember correctly, you seem to have only half of his back then. Umbridge, haha, talent in youth cannot represent everything. Many young geniuses are still mediocre after adulthood. Minerva McGonagall, but so far, no student who got 12 O's has ever been mediocre. The last one was Bill Weasley, and who was the one before that? I don't need to tell you, right? Umbridge, you seem to have forgotten to mention one, Barty Crouch Jr., he also got 12 O's back then, and what happened? Isn't he waiting to die in Azkaban? In a dark room, Barty Crouch Jr. stared at the name on the screen. Umbridge, I remember you. In the underground passage, Newt has already arrived here. In front of him, the violent Momaran is now lying quietly beside the subway. Above the pit, 5 Aurors are waving their wands to set up a barrier. Outside the barrier, more and more Muggles are surrounding them, their faces full of surprise. After all, this is the first time they have seen real magic. Professor McGonagall, combined with armor protection, it can keep Muggles out. Students who are going to take the Auror exam can learn more about armor protection. Flitwick, an armor protection is very practical. If you use armor protection with occulting, peace guard and Muggle repelling, you can automatically isolate the space and it is not easy to be discovered. Harry Potter, why don't these Aurors use these spells? Aren't they exposed now? Flitwick, some may not know how to use them, and some have not been invented yet. For example, occulting, this spell was invented by Professor Snape. Invented, of course there is no such spell in the light curtain during this period. Harry Potter, what? Snape invented the earmuffs. Albus Dumbledore, you should call Professor Snape, Harry. In fact, Severus is not only a master of potions, but also a master of spells. He invented many spells, such as, the fuchsia, the tongue lock, the nail clipping and growth spell, etc. James Potter, what? The fuchsia was invented by Snape. I also used this spell to trick him. Severus Snape, haha. Snape was so angry when he mentioned this. The original book wrote that Snape was hit by the fuchsia he invented when he was bullied. What an irony. Harry Potter, Dad, I think I finally understand why Professor Snape doesn't like. No, he hates me so much. Alas, my father really pitied his son. Credence, your name is Credence, right? I'm here to help you. Newt looked at the Obscurus in front of him and tried to let him down. Unfortunately, Credence, who had just been deceived by Graves, was not the kind of person who would easily believe others. Newt could only continue, I have seen people like you, a girl who was locked up and punished for having magic. Credence was still naive, Or perhaps he felt Newt's sincerity, he removed the obscurus form and turned back into Credence himself. However, he still curled up on the other side of the subway track, not daring to approach Newt. But Newt smiled, because the other party was willing to remove the obscurus posture, which meant that he was willing to talk to him, which was a success. "Can I get close to you? Can I talk to you?" Newt said gently. Seeing that Credence did not refuse, he smiled and prepared to get closer. But at this moment, a white light shot directly from the other end of the subway, and Graves also appeared. "Zhang Qiu, this Graves is so annoying." Senior Newt was about to convince Credence. "Hannah Abbott, yes, just a little bit." "Credence, now that I think about it, it is true. If he hadn't appeared at that time, would my life be different?" "Grindelwald, Credence, we can never judge the future that has not happened, because there is no if in life." "Credence, I have learned a lesson." Newt was thrown to the side by a spell and rolled on the ground, while Graves had not stopped his actions, and fragments of his body gushed out from his wand. Although they were all intermediate, Graves used continuous shooting, and 5 or 6 fragments were shot over, directly raising clouds of dust on the ground. Under the pressure of this intensive attack, Newt could only roll and crawl to dodge. Even if he occasionally used the shatter-to-piece attack, it was directly blocked by Graves' armor. "Professor Flitwick, every time I see Graves take action, I am shocked by his strength. He is so powerful." "Ron Weasley, Flitwick, Professor, is he stronger than you?" "Flitwick is a dueling master. It is said that in a one-on-one fight, no one in Hogwarts can beat him except Dumbledore. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network." However, Flitwick shook his head and said, "I have no confidence that I can beat him." "Harry Potter, so strong?" "Albus Dumbledore, Headmaster, what about you?" Dumbledore certainly knew who he was, so he replied, "We are, about the same, maybe I am a little bit stronger than him." Looking at Dumbledore's answer, Zhang Dong rolled his eyes speechlessly. Typical old Dumbledore-style modesty. When fighting Voldemort, he said at the beginning that he was no match for Voldemort, but the battle at the Ministry of Magic almost ended. Credence struggled to get up and wanted to leave this place of trouble, but as soon as he got up, a subway car hit him. Graves quickly reached out and used a floating spell to move Credence away, which saved Credence from death. Zhang Dong couldn't help sighing when he saw this scene. Perhaps it was because of this incident that Credence chose to stand by Grindelwald in the end. Graves had just saved Credence, and immediately turned around to deal with Newt. A series of lightning spells surrounded his wand. Under the thunder, Newt had no chance to resist at all. He could only tremble under the whipping of the thunder. 1 whip, 2 whips, 3 whips, 4 whips, 5 whips. Newt's lips turned white and his eyes were scarlet. "Hermione Granger, Graves is just venting his anger." "Negative. Remus Lupin, that's true, otherwise, he should have used Avada Kedavra instead of the Thunderbolt curse." "Hannah Abbott." Senior Newt's eyes were red from being beaten, it must have felt very uncomfortable. Graves kept whipping Newt, while they all ignored Credence. Underground was a battle between Newt and Graves, and above ground, Muggle soldiers and wizard aurors were also confronting each other. At this moment, Credence felt that the whole world was against him. He clearly just wanted to live an ordinary life, why did everyone either want to use him or not tolerate him? And in this state, he finally, completely lost control. Ah! At this moment, Credence turned into a huge black tornado, sweeping across the entire subway. Facing the erupting obscurus, Graves stopped abusing Newt and quickly moved away. But the obscurus had no intention of stopping. It had gone completely crazy. Even Graves was knocked to the ground by it and unable to resist. Just as the two were about to be destroyed by the black tornado, a voice suddenly rang out. "Credence!" Hearing this voice, the violent dark tornado suddenly stopped. He looked at the figure in front of him and recognized that this woman was the wizard who helped him when Mary abused him before. "Hagrid, well done, Tina. Your presence has awakened the beautiful memories in his heart. Fortunately, you are here. Tina, you are too flattering. Pansy Parkinson, but this obscurus is really strong. Even Graves, who is so powerful, is not its opponent. Grindelwald, that's because Graves wanted to subdue the other party, so he didn't hurt it. Otherwise, with the other party's magical attainments, he could definitely defeat this obscurus easily. This is the truth. Look at the final battle between Credence and Dumbledore in the third part. He was completely crushed. At that time, Graves still had a wand that could control the power in his body, but even so, he was still completely defeated by Dumbledore. And Grindelwald's strength is not much weaker than Dumbledore, so it is not difficult to defeat Credence. Seeing that Momarin had calmed down, Tina comforted him softly, "I know what you've been through, I know what that woman did to you, but you can't do this again." Tina had tears in her eyes. She really wanted to save the child, just like she would rather lose her job than take action against Mary. The figure of Credence emerged in the dark tornado, but at this time, Graves also stood up and said, "Don't listen to her, Credence, I can set you free, and if you leave her, you will only be destroyed by the Magic Congress." Under the voices of the two, Credence gradually calmed down. However, at this moment, one figure after another has rushed down from the ground. Serafina, the chairman of the Magic Congress, this top wizard is accompanied by 5 elite Aurors, and there are nearly 20 ordinary Aurors behind her. Nearly 30 wands are aimed at Credence in the sky at the same time. Albus Dumbledore, the Ministry of Magic is still the same as always, Achka, making arbitrary decisions without regard to the truth. Of course, Minister Fudge, I'm not talking about you. Cornelie Fudge. Damn, don't think I don't know what you mean, Dumbledore. You never trust the Ministry of Magic. Always. Stop. Graves was also anxious. He turned around and looked at these people fiercely. He shouted, "I will kill anyone who dares to attack me." Everyone knew how powerful Graves was, but these Aurors didn't care about his words at all. They raised their wands. Broken to pieces. 43. A full 43 broken to pieces, the weakest of which was a high-level spell, mixed with top attacks from the chairman of the Congress and 4 elites. Such an attack! Even Credence couldn't resist it. Ah! Credence was wailing, but he could only scream in pain under such intensive attacks, and then dissipated in the sky. Tina, alas, even though so many years have passed, it is still very despairing to see this scene. I finally managed to coax him. Ron Weasley, the actions of this Congress really make people want to beat them up. Harry Potter, Ron, don't go. You can't beat them. Ron. Thank you for your reminder. Cornelie Fudge, I still have to say that although it is a bit inhumane, there is no problem with this treatment. The Ministry of Magic should be responsible for the wizards as a whole. Minerva McGonagall, I just feel sorry. If such a talented wizard meets a good leader, he may become a wizard who is not inferior to Dumbledore. Looking at Credence who turned into ashes, Graves stood up from the ground as if he had lost all his strength. He looked up at the ashes in the sky and tried to grab a wisp with his hand, but the shapeless dust just slipped away from his fingertips. A bunch of idiots! Graves cursed. He looked at the Aurors in front of him as if he was looking at a group of bugs. Do you know what you have done? I ordered it, Mr. Graves. Serafina said so unkindly. And Graves just nodded, but everyone could see that he was in a bad mood. You are right, Madam President. History will definitely record you. What happened here last night was so ruthless and cold-blooded. He will also be held responsible for the no-mage he killed. Serafina was not afraid. She represented justice, he also violated our laws. That law makes us hide in the sewers and run around like rats. However, Graves interrupted him directly. He couldn't stand Serafina's appearance of standing on the peak of justice and pointing fingers. This law makes us hide our true nature. This law makes the people it is supposed to protect shrink in fear. Let me ask you, Madam President, let me ask you, who exactly is this law protecting? Is it us? Graves raised his finger and pointed to the top of his head, or them. He knew that a large number of no-mage had gathered there. Having said this, Graves suddenly turned around and left in style. I don't want to be servile anymore. Draco Malfoy, well said. So well said. I suddenly feel that he is so handsome. Why should our laws be used to protect those no-majors? Lucius Malfoy, Draco Malfoy, shut up. It seems that I should find an opportunity to teach you what to say and what not to say. Pansy Parkinson, but, I also feel that what Graves said makes sense, and from the first time he appeared, he was so powerful, graceful and sophisticated that people. Albus Dumbledore, people can't help but follow him. Pansy Parkinson, yet. Albus Dumbledore, it's not your fault. After all, he does have such charm, but unfortunately, you have to learn to open your eyes. Not everyone is suitable for you to follow. Not everyone is worth following. Suitable to follow? Worth following? Who is the right person to follow? Who is the person worth following? Zhang Dong couldn't help but look at the two names. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Grindelwald and Voldemort. The strong is supreme and blood is king. Is Dumbledore reminding everyone that neither of them is worth following? Graves turned around and was about to leave. Serafina naturally couldn't let him leave like that. Aurors, please remove Mr. Graves' wand. Armor protection. Several armor protections turned into barriers that directly blocked Graves' way. Looking at the barrier in front of him, Graves nodded silently and turned around. Shattered to pieces. Shattered to pieces shot towards Graves instantly. The spells were even more intensive than when he dealt with Obscurus just now. However, Graves was not afraid at all. He waved his hand and the ultimate armor protection appeared directly. All the broken bones fell on the barrier and were instantly bounced off, and even several were directly bounced back by Graves. In the blink of an eye, several Aurors, including 2 elite Aurors, were knocked down directly. Graves didn't stop yet, he went upstream against the rain of spells. An Auror fell down with every step he took. At this moment, he was like the most terrifying demon king. Neville Longbottom, wow, so awesome. Too awesome, he never thought someone could do this. In his eyes, Aurors are already the strongest among wizards, and elite Aurors are the strongest among the strong. However, even so many strong men were beaten to pieces by one person. This really subverted his 3 views. Draco Malfoy, indeed, you said you should just let him go, but he refused to let him go. Now, they can only turn around and kill them all. Fred, Ministry of Magic. You are surrounded by me alone. Hermione Granger, I think I know who he is. Ron Weasley, hey? Who is he? Isn't he Graves? Hermione Granger, are you stupid? It's so obvious, but you still can't guess it. There are only 3 people who can do this in the past 100 years. Ron Weasley, hey. Harry Potter, Dumbledore, Voldemort, and Grindelwald. After Harry reminded him, Ron finally reacted. Yes, Grindelwald. How could I almost forget him? It's not just Hermione. If you can't guess who Graves is after watching this man fighting a group of Aurors, you'd be a fool. Ernie Macmillan, at first I felt it was embarrassing that Tina was defeated in just a few moves, but now I suddenly feel that Tina is so strong. She actually came back alive from Grindelwald. Hannah Abbott, do you understand the value of the chief Auror? Pansy Parkinson, Grindelwald is still more terrifying. I feel that he even surpassed, Harry Potter, surpassed Voldemort, right? It doesn't matter. I'll say it for you. Voldemort, Harry Potter. That's because you haven't seen what real power is. It's just a few dozen Aurors. If it were me, it wouldn't be that powerful. But one at a time. Zhang Dong, Voldemort, Lao Voldemort, if it were you, would you have to kill them one at a time? I'm curious, is it possible that an avatar can kill a whole group in 1 second? Voldemort, impossible. Absolutely impossible. No one knows Avatar better than me. No. Voldemort was about to curse, your Avada can also be used as a range skill. Seeing Voldemort's reaction, Zhang Dong's mouth twitched twice. It seems that Avada lightning chain is really unique to Huo Yi's protagonist. I don't know when I can learn it. Grindelwald kept moving forward, Serafina's face changed, but she couldn't retreat because she was the chief of the Magic Congress. At this time, Newt finally made a move. The winged demon suddenly flew. The thick body actually passed through Grindelwald's ultimate armor protection. Grindelwald never thought that this little thing could have such power. In an instant, his hands were directly bound, and the wand in his hand fell to the side. Cedric, well done. Senior Newt. Hagrid, see. This is the power of magical animals. Winged demon. Magic immunity. Harry Potter, Hagrid, if that's the case, why didn't everyone bring a magical animal when dealing with Voldemort? It should be very effective. Voldemort, haha, do you think I'm a fool? I got 12 O's in the 5th grade OW1 exam, and Newt got 12 O's in the 7th grade exam. Do you think I don't know the abilities of these magical animals? But you, Grindelwald, ha, you were defeated by a curled winged demon. You really lost the face of the dark wizards. 0 seeking flowers. Grindelwald, you are just a bug standing on the shoulders of giants. Do you have the right to mock me? And do you think they can lock me up? There's more to it. Everyone hurriedly continued to read on. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. The wand is flying. Tina took Grindelwald's wand directly. And Newt also pointed his wand, the true form is revealed. The next second, Graves' face disappeared, replaced by a pale and majestic face. Serafina breathed a sigh of relief. She waved to the two Aurors beside her. The two Aurors walked up and grabbed Grindelwald's arms on the left and right and took him away. When passing by Newt, Grindelwald looked at him deeply and said, "How can we linger like this?" After that, he left here. And Jacob and Queenie finally came over. Queenie hugged Tina excitedly, and Jacob returned the box in his hand to Newt. "These magical animals need someone to take care of them. Thank you." At this moment, there was peace and quiet. Serafina came over and looking at Newt in front of her. She finally said the first good words since the whole video. "We owe you an apology, Mr. Newt. Now the wizarding world has been exposed, and we can't cast the oblivion spell on the people of the entire city." Ron Weasley, yes. What should we do? Once the wizard's affairs are exposed, it's over. Hermione Granger, why are you surprised? Since we haven't been exposed yet, it must be that the matter has been resolved. Don't make a fuss. Ron Weasley, I'm not talking about the video. I mean, when I was flying in the sky just now, it seems that some muggles saw it. Will this be exposed? Arthur Weasley, car? What car? Wait. Ron Weasley, I'm sorry, Dad. Ah. Arthur Weasley broke out in a cold sweat on his back. Damn. Ron. You are really a scumbag. Arthur ran out to deal with his own car accident, but the video had one last scene. Faced with the danger of the wizarding world being exposed, Newt looked at the last wisp of black smoke that dissipated, and then said, "I think I have a way." Newt has a way? A way to make the whole city forget what happened just now? How is it possible? The golden thunderbird flew out of the box, and everyone was excited to see the representative animal of the United States. And Newt walked up to him tenderly and said, "You are our only hope, Frank." Newt walked up and gently stroked Frank's bird head. In the sun, the two figures seemed to be emitting light. "I will miss you." Newt took out the liquid of the winged demon that he had prepared before, and threw it. The Thunderbird also caught the bottle of liquid directly with its mouth. Then, the Thunderbird flew directly into the sky. At this time, underground, Newt, Queenie, Tina, Jacob, Serafina, and the remaining Aurors all looked up at the sky, and on the ground, people were also horrified to see the big golden bird soaring into the sky. Hannah Abbott, every time I see a Thunderbird, I feel that it is so beautiful. It would be great if I could ride on its back and fly up to the sky for fun. Hermione Granger, nonsense. Bird snakes are the coolest magical animals. Hagrid, by the way, the liquid of the winged demon can make people forget those unhappy things. I think this is why Newt threw the liquid to the Thunderbird. Harry, magical animals are so cool. Ron, don't you think so? Ron, don't make a fuss, I'm counting the heads. You can see the last group photo. In addition to Newt, Queenie, Tina, Jacob, and Serafina, there are 43 Aurors. In other words, Grindelwald beat 46 wizards just now. They are all first-class wizards. Dong, Ron, it's 48. 2 wizards just now took Grindelwald away. If you count the 5 Aurors who maintained the armor on the ground, it's 53. Grindelwald, there are so many? Sorry, I didn't have time to count them at that time. Dong looked at Grindelwald's answer and couldn't help being shocked by the opponent's strength. Although Dong was very confident in his own strength, he could only deal with 4 or 5 Aurors. With the World Tree Spirit and the Big Hat, he could only beat 10 at most. 50, he really can't do this. If others knew what Dong was thinking, they would definitely scold him for not knowing what was good for him. Take the Voldemort rebellion as an example. There were only about 5,000 wizards in the whole of England, and the British Ministry of Magic had only about 50 Aurors, 19 members of the Order of the Phoenix, and 34 Death Eaters. Even if some wizards did not participate in the war, there were no more than 150 first-class wizards. Dong, a 12-year-old boy, could beat 10 of them by himself, but he still felt that he was not strong enough. What would other people think? At this moment, Newt's eyes were full of nostalgia. He even said excitedly, "Everyone, please witness the greatest forgetfulness spell in the history of magic." Ah! The Thunderbird flew into the sky. In an instant, the whole sky became overcast. Silver-white lightning streaked across the sky, and a heavy rain fell directly from the sky. In the rain, the ordinary people who were shocked by the magic just now suddenly became dazed. They looked at each other, as if they didn't know what they were gathering here for. More than 50 Aurors walked to the street, waving their wands, and used one after another to restore the broken city. The broken city that was destroyed by the battle was magically restored to its original appearance. Luna Lovegood, this picture is beautiful. Zhang Qiu, yes, wizards use wands to restore the broken city. This is a dreamlike scene. Hermione Granger, so, what if someone holds an umbrella? Others. Everyone is immersed in the touching feeling after the battle, and you are the only one who asks what to do if no umbrella is held? But this is very Hermione. The light screen quickly gave the answer. In the room, the woman who was washing herself in water suddenly froze in place, the man who was taking a bath forgot to put soap on it, even the newspaper hanging on the wall turned into unusually humid weather sweeping November. The Thunderbird can control not only rainfall, but also liquids in the air. As long as it is not in a vacuum state, you cannot get rid of the power of forgetfulness even if you hide in the room. Ah! Finally, when the last trace of magic was repaired, the Thunderbird chirped and flew to the distant other side. 0. So healing. Everyone couldn't help but have such a feeling in their hearts, even the dark wizards in Azkaban had a feeling. Did I feel a little too much before? But it was just a little bit. After all, people are not so easily changed. Mr. Scamander, I owe you a big favor. Serafina said, and prepared to take everyone away. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. However, she still did not forget the important thing, which is hurry up and take the box and leave here. Also, don't forget to use the Oblivion charm on that no-mage. No exceptions can be made. Fred, haha. The chairman was really scared by Senior Newt's box. He just released a Thunderbird casually. If all the ones in the box were released, George, then I'm afraid they will want to send Senior Newt and Grindelwald to Azkaban together. Hermione Granger, but do we still have to cast the Oblivion charm on Jacob? What a pity, it's too rigid. Cornelie Fudge, no way, this is the rule. Outside the subway station, Jacob looked at the three people behind him, and his voice was choked with sobs, but he still said firmly. It's nothing. Maybe I don't belong here. Everyone knows that Newt brought me here because, why did you bring me here? Because I like you. Newt said directly. Everyone couldn't help laughing when they saw 1.3. Senior Newt is still so interesting. However, during this period of time, they did get to know the Muggle world again and understand what Muggle life is like. I'll go with you. We can go anywhere. Queenie finally couldn't help but come out. She could see how sad Jacob was. But Jacob shook his head, no. There are many people like me. You are unique. You are unique. Queenie has seen too many people in her life. She knows too well what those people are thinking. Only Jacob, he is so sincere, humorous, kind and brave. Unfortunately, this is the rule of the United States. Wizards and no-mage are destined to be people from two different worlds. Jacob slowly stepped back, spreading his hands and walking into the rain. Looking at the man in the rain, Queenie finally couldn't help but walk over. Magic gushed out of the wand and turned into an umbrella, and there was no distance between Queenie and Jacob. Kiss in the rain. Even though she knew that the other party would forget her, Queenie was unwilling to let go of him. Newt and Tina on the side also had tears in their eyes. They were also sad for their sister and friends. Jacob closed his eyes, and when he opened his eyes again, the lovely girl in his arms had disappeared. Jacob looked at the empty subway entrance blankly, then wiped the rain off his face and turned around to walk in the rain. Jacob didn't know how he had been these days. The work in the canning factory really made him feel bored. However, when he just went out, a dusty figure suddenly bumped into him and even knocked his box off. I'm sorry, sir. The figure left quickly. Jacob wanted to call him, but he held back. When he opened the box, he only found 7 or 8 pure silver eggs in the box, as well as a letter Newt left for him. Dear Mr. Kowalski, it's a waste of your talent to stay in the cannery. Please use this box of silver eggs as a loan. From a kind-hearted person. Zhang Qiu, history always repeats itself in a surprising way. Ron Weasley, a box of silver eggs. Senior Newt is really rich. Zhang Dong, how can anyone who can afford to raise magical animals be short of money? Ron Weasley, Charlie raises dragons in Romania, and he doesn't have much money. Charlie Weasley, I just raised dragons. The dragons are not mine. Harry Potter, think about it this way, Hagrid is not short of money either. Zhang Dong, of course he is, he just doesn't have much concept of money. 1 pint of acromanthus venom costs 100 galleons. How could Hagrid, who raised acromanthus as his son, be short of money? To be honest, if Hagrid wanted to, his wealth would definitely rank among the top 50 in the British wizarding world. At the port, Newt and Tina stood opposite each other. Newt was going back to England. Newt, I want to say, thank you, thanks to you, Madam President allowed me to become an Auror again. I really can't think of anyone I want to investigate me more. It's better not to let anyone investigate. The two smiled at each other, and everything was said without words. Looking at Tina's face, Newt became more and more shy. It will be calm in the future. I will organize the manuscript and send it out after I go back. I am looking forward to it. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I will send you a copy. I am looking forward to it. Woo. The sound of the cruise ship has sounded. Newt took another look, and then turned and left here. Looking at Newt's back, Tina was very disappointed, but the next second, Newt ran back and asked. If you don't mind, can I come and give you a copy in person? Seeing Newt like this, Tina finally smiled. She kept nodding and smiling and said, I'm looking forward to it, very much. At this time, a bakery opened in the commotion on the corner of the street. However, the cakes in this bakery are different from those in other shops. They are all some strange little animals. And if a wizard comes in, he can recognize that these cakes are exactly the appearance of the Niffler, the invisible beast, and the venomous horned beast. Mr. Kowalski, how did you think of these? You may not believe it, they just appeared in my mind like a dream. Jacob raised his head and looked at the figure in front of him. At this moment, the beautiful Queenie was smiling at her, as always. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them 1, ended. Zhang Qiu, this ending, is so beautiful. Mr. Jacob must not have forgotten Miss Queenie, right? Hermione, probably not. Look at his smile and the way he touched his wound. He must still remember it. Ron Weasley, isn't the point Newt's manuscript? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. From now on, we have one more course. Harry Potter, isn't this great? I can't wait. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. Zhang Dong, you are overthinking. Magical Creatures is only an elective course for 3rd graders. Harry Potter, ah? That's a pity. Who is the current professor of magical creatures? Albus Dumbledore, it's Professor Sylvanus Kettleben. Unfortunately, Professor Kettleben is talking to me about retirement recently. I guess you may not have a chance to meet him in the future. Sylvanus Kettleben, a famous dragon lover, unfortunately, he only has 1 arm and 1 leg left now. It's really a rip-off to let him teach again. By the way, what should I do with the magical creatures class in the future? How about asking Hagrid? He must be happy to do it. Hagrid, wait a minute, something's wrong. The winged demon can only erase people's bad memories, not all memories directly like oblivion. So, how could Mr. Jacob forget those things? This experience can't be said to be unpleasant. Hagrid, I didn't expect that a man as big and strong as you could find a blind spot. But it is true. With Hagrid's knowledge of magical creatures, he should have discovered this. At once, a group of people reacted. Damn, I thought it was a tragedy, but it turned out to be a comedy. Everyone was crazy about Jacob, but Jacob just dived and didn't answer them. And Zhang Dong was too lazy to pay attention to 963 and the others. At this time, his attention was completely attracted by the reward after playing the video. Your video was successfully shocked Jacob Kowalski, you can get a reward, strength plus 10. Your video successfully shocked Credence, you can get a reward, magic plus 20. Strength and magic duo, stability is this reward. Your video successfully shocked Queenie Goldstein, you can get a spell, weather spell lightning spell, intermediate. Your video successfully shocked Tina Goldstein, you can get a reward, weather spell lightning spell, Advanced. Weather spells, also known as weather-changing spells, Ron is very good at this kind of spell. In 1996, he could use the snow-making spell to make snowflakes. In 1997, when Ron disguised himself as Carter and sneaked into the Ministry of Magic, he said that his robe was wet because Yaxley's office was rained by someone under the rain spell, and Mr. Weasley even asked him to suggest that he use the cloud spell to withdraw. The ceiling of the Hogwarts Great Hall is also covered with a weather-changing spell. Barty Crouch Jr., who was disguised as Mad Eye in the Goblet of Fire, also used a weather-changing spell to counteract the weather-changing spell on the ceiling. This spell can also be used to attack. Grindelwald's lightning 5 whips in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is a way to use the lightning spell. Advanced lightning spell? Not bad. The small head is gone. Next, it should be the big head. Your video successfully shocked Newt Scamander, and you can get the spell, Strength Release, Advanced. Strength Release is a spell specifically used to remove various restraints and bindings, a very practical functional spell. Your video successfully shocked the United States Congress Aura X50, and you can get the spell, Shattered to Pieces, Ultimate. Finally, the ultimate reward is out. It is worthy of being the reward for the end of the video. Zhang Dong looked at this reward excitedly. Zhang Dong has several ultimate skills, but he has always lacked the ultimate means of attack. Now it's good, an ultimate Shattered to Pieces has come. No need to be beaten when encountering a strong enemy in the future. Your video successfully shocked Serafina, and you can get the spell, Repair as Before, Advanced. Aura's essential skills, dedicated to Aftermath. Your video successfully shocked Gellert Grindelwald, and you can get the spell, Armor of the Body, Advanced. Armor of the Body has finally reached Advanced. This spell is Zhang Dong's favorite spell, but because it is only at intermediate level, it can't be used against later opponents. But now that it has reached Advanced level, it has regained its effect. After all, except for those top wizards, ordinary people can't master top spells. With Armor of the Body, except for those black magics like Avatar, Zhang Dong will ignore most of the lore. A lot of money. A real lot of money. But that's not all. This is the end of a whole movie. There must be a big prize like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Congratulations, Master, you have played 95 of the first part of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and you can get an extra reward, the Deathly Hallows Resurrection Stone. Resurrection Stone? No, shouldn't you give me the Elder Wand? How could it be the Resurrection Stone? This thing is the most useless. Just when Zhang Dong was about to complain, he saw a new message on the phone screen. It is detected that the owner has the magic stone. Do you want to merge? Merge? Can merge? Of course. The magic stone and the resurrection stone are merging. 3, 2, 1. Congratulations to the owner for owning the item, the magic resurrection stone. Magic resurrection stone. The holder can stay young forever, and can communicate with any dead creature, and allow it to be resurrected at any age. Note, each resurrection of a creature requires 1 cubic centimeter of the magic resurrection stone's energy. If the holder recycles this part of the energy, the resurrected creature will die directly. Fuck. What did I see? Zhang Dong was dumbfounded. Resurrection. Real resurrection. Zhang Dong quickly took out the magic resurrection stone. He even calculated that this fist-sized stone must have 100 cubic centimeters, so he could use it to directly revive 100 people. And the kind of immortality. Zhang Dong could imagine that once the function of this stone was publicized, if he goes out, how many people will come and fight him. Apart from anything else, Voldemort's men will definitely not let him go. It's not that the wizarding world does not have the ability to resurrect, but it's too difficult to resurrect one person with that thing. Father's bones, taken out unintentionally. Servant's flesh, voluntary dedication, to read exciting novels, go to Novel Network. Enemy's blood, forced to obtain. What if he has no father? What if he is poor and has no servants? What if he has good popularity and no enemies? But my magic resurrection stone doesn't care about these. I really don't know what his expression will be when Voldemort is resurrected with great difficulty, and I stand up and resurrect 100 people with a wave of my hand. Zhang Dong actually wants to take out this stone and resurrect a few people for fun, but who should he resurrect? Zhang's father and mother are still alive. It's only 92 years now, and his relatives and friends are still alive. For a while, I really don't know who to resurrect. That's not right. There is a person he always wants to resurrect, Professor Figo from Hogwarts Legacy. Zhang Dong has always felt sorry for Professor Figo's death after playing the game. Professor Figo, the astronomy professor at Hogwarts, is as important to the protagonist of Hogwarts Legacy as Dumbledore is to Harry. And Zhang Dong has always blamed the professor wrongly. When he was playing the game, he always thought that the professor would end up in the infernal affairs, but Professor Figo was fulfilling his duty as a teacher to help him from beginning to end. Alas! You can find an opportunity to try it, but it's hard to get the identity of the resurrected person. But it doesn't matter, I can let them lie low first and wait until the end to make a shining debut. Dumbledore created the Order of the Phoenix, so I will create the Green Dragon Society. This will definitely be stronger than his in-combat power. The more Zhang Dong thought about it, the brighter his eyes became, and he felt that he had opened the door to a new world. Let me think about who is worthy of resurrection. Credence, or should I call him Aurelius Dumbledore? If he sees Nagini, who has turned into a snake, being hugged by Voldemort, will he go crazy? The real Percival Graves of the United States Magical Congress is also quite powerful, right? And Lily Potter, she is the one who really defeated Voldemort, and Ariana Dumbledore. The more Zhang Dong thought about it, the more excited he became. He suddenly felt that he was only one step away from the third generation of Dark Lord. This step is his strength. Zhang Dong's current strength is still not as good as Dumbledore, Voldemort, and Grindelwald, but he has already had a plan. I will brush more Hogwarts Legacy this year. As long as I brush out ancient magic, it will be the time for me and Dumbledore to have a showdown. Zhang Dong admires Dumbledore very much, but it is precisely because he knows Dumbledore that he understands that this person always puts peace in the wizarding world first, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. After all, who knows if he will confiscate Zhang Dong's magic resurrection stone for the safety of the wizarding world. Forget it, don't think too much about it, the classmates will be here soon, I'd better go first pack up and prepare for the new semester. Thinking this way, Zhang Dong opened the door and walked out. The second year at Hogwarts has officially begun. Live broadcast? But what can we broadcast live? Harry looked at Ron beside him in confusion. He and Ron can't sing or dance, and even now they are in the sky, they can't even play a thrilling game of wizard chess, so what else can they do? Looking at Harry beside him, Ron scratched his head and gripped the steering wheel tightly and said, "How about I show you a mid-air drift? Molly Weasley, you dare! Come down quickly! Don't mess around! It's dangerous in the sky! Draco Malfoy, Ron, come on, let me see how good your drifting skills are! Fred Weasley, Ron, don't mess around, you don't have a driver's license yet! George Weasley, yes, even if we want to perform, it's the two of us." 610 Looking at a bunch of people's barrage, Ron was helpless, and at this moment, suddenly, the flying car suddenly fell down as if it was out of control. Harry quickly grabbed the handrail and turned his head to look at Ron in the driver's seat and asked, "Ron, are you doing something?" And the one who responded to him was Ron with a confused look on his face. "Harry! Quick! Up! Up! It's not working! It's not working! No!" Molly covered her face in fear. At that height, how could the two children survive if they fell? Even Lily Potter, who was already in the underworld, covered her mouth in fear. Although she missed Harry very much, she didn't want Harry to come down to accompany her so early. Ha ha ha! Voldemort laughed happily, "What a pity, he can't wait until I revive and deal with him myself." Even Hermione covered her eyes in fear. Are her two best friends going to die on the first day of school? Stop! Stop! No! No! The two boys shouted loudly, and Ron even broke the wand in his hand, but it still didn't work. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in a space distortion on the front hood of the flying car. It was Zhang Dong. "Zhang Dong!" Neville suddenly shouted. Instantly, everyone looked at Zhang Dong's seat. Sure enough, at this moment, Zhang Dong's figure had disappeared without knowing when. Beautiful apparition! But how did he do it? Mag looked at Dumbledore in shock. She needed an explanation. And Dumbledore looked at her helplessly, meaning don't ask me, I can't explain it to you. Hogwarts prohibits apparition. This is a prohibition set by the four founders. Unless your strength is stronger than the four founders together, or you have another set of spellcasting skills like the house elves, it is absolutely impossible to apparition in the school. This is common sense that everyone knows. However, this common sense was broken by Zhang Dong again today. Zhang Dong. Harry and Ron looked at Zhang Dong, who suddenly appeared in surprise. They didn't know why they suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Zhang Dong always gives people a sense of security. Standing on the top of the flying car, Zhang Dong looked at the Whomping Willow close at hand, and silently took out his wand that he had just wiped clean and said, "This Whomping Willow is a bit old, so let's protect it." Wingardium Leviosa. Under the advanced floating spell, the Weasley family's flying car was directly frozen in the air. Feeling the flying car suddenly stop falling, Harry and Ron reacted. "We are saved." The two breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, Zhang Dong is still reliable. Just as they were about to thank Zhang Dong, they saw Zhang Dong smiling and waving at them, then disappearing with a teleportation. Without Zhang Dong's floating spell, the flying car fell directly from the air. Fortunately, after Zhang Dong's shock absorption, nothing would happen at this height. The two guys just felt a pain in their buttocks and landed smoothly on the ground. As the space was distorted, Zhang Dong returned to his seat and took a sip of the iced pumpkin juice he had just poured. Long live Zhang Dong! Fred and George ran over and gave Zhang Dong a grateful hug. Although the two looked unreliable, they were really scared when their brother almost got into trouble just now. Percy and Ginny were also grateful to Zhang Dong. Although their personalities were not so direct, they could not hide the look in their eyes when looking at Zhang Dong. Zhang Dong was so handsome just now. He suddenly appeared. He was saved by a spell and then suddenly disappeared. When can I be like this? Don't even think about it. Advanced levitation spells and disapparition, which can only be learned by seniors, are difficult for general 7th graders to do. But Zhang Dong is only in the 2nd grade. It's just the beginning of the school year. Who wouldn't say that? Alas, the gap between people is really... it's too big. In the stands, several professors couldn't help but applaud. Professor Flitwick, nice levitation spell. If it was in class, I would definitely give Zhang Dong 5 points. No. 10 points. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Professor McGonagall, if you saved your classmates at the critical moment, I would definitely give Zhang Dong 10 points if it was the official start of school. Professor Sprout, I also want to give Zhang Dong 10 points for preventing such a precious Whomping Willow from being destroyed. Listening to the praises of the three deans, Zhang Dong looked helpless. It's all if, and the result is no point, right? This is also unavoidable. Who let the school not start in theory yet? Otherwise, Harry and Ron's behavior today would really be directly expelled. Voldemort, Zhang Dong, it's you again. Forget it, let you be proud for a few more days, and wait for me to come back and catch you all in one fell swoop. Molly Weasley, Zhang Dong, kid, thank you so much. 1.4 Molly looked at Zhang Dong with great favor. Look at him, he is capable, polite, and a Gryffindor. Why are all the good kids from other families? Looking at the comments, Zhang Dong just silently replied, "You're welcome." Then he turned off the live broadcast. It's enough to figure out what this function is. Next is the rest time, and there is nothing to broadcast. As Zhang Dong turned off his phone, the system information also appeared on the phone. Congratulations to the master for completing the first live broadcast and getting the reward. Sprouts reward Whomping Willow Seedling, 1. Get the reward Professor McGonagall's reward Animagus, Garfield. Get the reward Professor Flitwick's reward spell, Flowing Water, Intermediate. Oh? So the reward for live broadcast is in this form. Your video popularized Professor Figo, you can get a reward, Astronomy, Intermediate. Professor Figo, the astronomy professor during the Hogwarts Legacy period, and the intermediate astronomy is equivalent to the astronomy knowledge of grades 3 to 5. It is no problem to get an O in the OWLS exam, and the advanced level can get an O in the Newt exam. The ultimate level is the level of Hogwarts astronomy professors, and there are not many in the whole of England. Your video popularized Matilda Weasley, you can get a reward, Magic Spell Mark Appearance, Intermediate. Mark Appearance, sometimes when wizards don't have quills and parchment, they will use magic wands to write in the sky with magic power. Later, some people used this method to draw messages or marks in specific places. Your video popularized Yanuhu, you can get a reward, Magic plus 10. It's okay, don't worry, the magic power is not bad, and people have just finished the house division, and don't expect to brush out ancient magic. Your video popularized Phineas Black, and you can get a reward, the Spell of the Dragon 15, Advanced. What the hell? Zhang Dong stared blankly at the reward in front of him. Phineas Black. Who said you are the most annoying dean in the history of Hogwarts? You are so generous, your position in my heart is now second only to Dumbledore. Of course, if we consider the future, we have to add that it is second only to McGonagall and Snape. Spell of the Dragon, this magic is very niche. In the Harry Potter series, only Malfoy used the primary one, summoning a half-meter-long venomous snake. Intermediate Spell of the Dragon, Grindelwald used it when he escaped from prison in the Crimes of Grindelwald, and conjured several venomous snakes to knock down the wizard driving the Thestral carriage. And Zhang Dong's Advanced Spell of the Dragon, is no longer limited to summoning ordinary snakes, but also magical animals. However, damn! I don't have any snakes to summon. There are many magical animals in Zhang Dong's magical animal box, including 1 Norwegian Spinosaurus, a nest of bowtruckles, 1 Niffler, a pair of billywigs, 10 foxies, a pair of giant dung beetles, a pair of horned beasts, a nest of filament worms. But there is not a single snake. There are a few bird snake eggs, but the problem is that none of these bird snakes have hatched yet. The last reward for the rune spore was Parseltongue. If it was replaced with a rune spore, it would be useful. Zhang Dong sighed, and he didn't know whether his reward was good or bad. Advanced spells are definitely good, but they are useless to him now. After checking all the rewards, Zhang Dong put away his phone and followed the little wizards who had finished their meal to their common room. Before leaving, Zhang Dong had seen Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall walking out frantically. Zhang Dong knew what are they going to do. At this time, in the underground classroom, Snape, Ron, and Harry looked at each other. After a long time, Snape said coldly, "It's a pity that you are not students of my college, otherwise I can expel you directly." But Ron said fearlessly, "You can't do that, Professor Snape, we are just late, there is no school rule that says that being late will expel you from school." Snape suddenly had nothing to say. Indeed, in the original timeline, Snape could scold the 2 unlucky guys at will, and the 2 unlucky guys didn't dare to say anything. Because they were late for no reason, and then they crashed the precious Whomping Willow, and the process of driving the flying car was seen by 7 or 8 muggles, which was really serious. But because of the light curtain, Arthur had already dealt with the muggle affairs in advance, and the Whomping Willow was also saved by Zhang Dong, so the 2 of them were completely justified. Harry was still muttering, the live broadcast on the screen should not have ended so early. If my mother saw this, she would no longer trust you. Crack! Snape was struck by lightning. He broke out in a cold sweat on his back. Fortunately, the live broadcast ended early, otherwise, would my image be completely ruined? At this time, Professor McGonagall and Dumbledore also came in, and Professor McGonagall drew her wand as soon as she came in. Seeing this scene, the 2 unlucky guys shrank their necks in unison. Not really. Didn't they say that we never use magic to punish students at Hogwarts? Then, Professor McGonagall lit the stove in the dungeon with her wand, and then said to the 2. "In view of your lateness, I will send a letter to your parents, and as for the deduction of points. To read the novel, go to Novel Network." "Harry, we haven't reported yet, so we are not enrolled, Professor McGonagall." Professor McGonagall pursed her lips and said with a faint smile, "Then there will be no deduction of points. Pay attention next time and go back to your common room." "Thank you, Professor McGonagall." The 2 little guys bowed quickly and walked out of the dungeon directly. Before leaving, Professor McGonagall saw that they had not eaten dinner and specially made a large plate of sandwiches for them, and 2 cups of full pumpkin juice for them to take back as a midnight snack. Transfiguration cannot directly transform food. These are all summoned by 570 using summoning to summon the food prepared by the house elves. Not only is it convenient, but it can also automatically refill the cup. Snape. Principal Dumbledore. Snape just wanted to complain at this moment. Dumbledore smiled and said, "Let Professor McGonagall deal with her own students, and I also feel that Professor McGonagall's handling is reasonable. Compared with this, don't you want to know the result of the bet between Zhang Dong and the 3 deans?" "What was the result?" Snape was really curious. Dumbledore was after taking a look at the embarrassed Professor McGonagall, he happily said, "All right. So Severus, do you know what this means?" Snape's face suddenly turned pale and said, it means that I can't be the defense against the dark arts professor this year or next year. Dumbledore. So you still want to be the defense against the dark arts professor? That's not a good job. But then again, Lockhart can't hold on for a year? Then, it's time to consider the next defense against the dark arts professor. If Lockhart knew that the headmaster was considering who would replace him before he had even taught a single class, I wonder what his expression would be. Separate. Outside the Gryffindor gate, Harry and Ron were standing here, holding their stomachs. After a day of driving, they certainly had a big meal. Although there were only sandwiches, it was also very delicious for them. It's just, they forgot one thing, that is. Harry, do you know what the fat lady's password is this year? How can I know, Ron? Harry looked at his friend helplessly. The two of them have been together all the time, how could he know these things? Just when the two were at a loss, suddenly, the door in front of them opened directly, and then they saw a bunch of familiar classmates sitting in the Gryffindor common room staring at them with big eyes. Long live! Suddenly, warm applause rang out, and the wizards of Gryffindor actually welcomed them like heroes. The two hurriedly walked in embarrassedly, they didn't think it was a glorious thing. As soon as they came in, Fred and George gave them a big hug. Fred, you are awesome! If I had known you were going to drive here, we should have turned back. George, why didn't you tell me earlier? What did we miss? Looking at the twins in front of him who seemed to have missed 1,000 galleons, Ron rolled his eyes helplessly and said, you don't know what we've been through. If it weren't for Zhang Dong, we might have died where the car crashed. Listening to Ron's words, Zhang Dong, who was drinking iced pumpkin juice, put down the cup and said with a smile. That won't happen. If you find a good landing point, such as the Whomping Willow, at most you will just get a little hurt in your butt. That hurts too. Harry kept shaking his head, and then hurriedly thanked Zhang Dong. Ron on the side also kept nodding, but soon, his face turned into a pig's gallbladder color, because. But when I fell, my wand accidentally broke. Ron took out the broken wand from his arms. When the car fell, he took out his wand and kept waving it to control the car to stop, but unfortunately, his magic power was not enough. Not only that, he also broke his wand that had been passed on several times. Looking at the wand in his hand, Ron looked at Fred and George with a bitter face and asked, Fred, George, if I ask my mother for money to buy a new wand, will she give it to me? Don't even think about it. Fred kept shaking his head. George on the side also said helplessly, because of your matter, Dad maybe find a lot of money. They must have no money to buy you a new wand. I'm afraid you will have to wait for a while. Ah! Ron cried. Harry said, I'm sorry, Ron. It's all because of me. How about I buy you a new wand? No. This is too expensive, and my parents wouldn't agree. Ron shook his head quickly. Although the Weasley family is poor, they are poor with dignity. This. Harry was also helpless. Ron looked directly at the twins and asked, George, Fred, you must have money. No. I'm your brother. Ron said loudly. Then, he saw Fred throw a roll of tape in front of him. Take it. Ron. You are really my good brothers. Fred patted his shoulder and said earnestly, magic tape, it can still be used after sticking it. George nodded and added, maybe you can worship Zhang Dong as your teacher and learn his wandless spell casting. Ron. Me? Casting without a wand? Forget it, I'll just use tape. Ron reluctantly took the tape and walked into the dormitory, and everyone went back to their dormitories to rest as it was getting dark. In the dormitory, everyone was already lying on the bed, only Ron was still sitting at the table silently taping the wand. Seeing Ron like this, Zhang Dong also remembered Ron's several wands. Other people usually have one wand to accompany them throughout their lives, but Ron has changed 3 wands in 7 years. Read the violent novel, just go to Falu Novel Network. The first one is the wand in his hand, which comes from his brother Charlie Weasley, 12 inches, Ashwood, unicorn tail hair, but unfortunately, it is not suitable for him. The second one will have to wait until next year, when his family wins the jackpot, to have money to change him, 14 inches, willow wood, unicorn tail hair. Unfortunately, this wand was also lost by him, until he met his third wand, Peter Pettigrew's wand, 9¼ inches, chestnut wood, dragon heartstring. Well, have you ever thought about changing a wand? Zhang Dong pointed at Ron's broken wand and reminded him. But Ron said helplessly, I'm afraid not, my family situation. Ron didn't think Zhang Dong was mocking him for being poor, he knew Zhang Dong was not such a bad person. He thought Zhang Dong also wanted to give him money to buy a wand like Harry did, he really thought too much. Zhang Dong, who was not a big shot, would not be so generous. Zhang Dong said, Ashwood, unicorn tail hair, the nature of Ashwood itself is to be loyal to its owner forever, and unicorn tail hair also has a strong feeling for its owner, so this wand is already bound to its owner. If you are not Charlie's brother, you can't even use it. I know, but, Ron was about to say something. Then, he saw Zhang Dong use a floating spell to move the suitcase in front of him, Niu Jianzhao, and then the suitcase opened automatically, revealing a row of various wands inside. Looking at the wands in front of him, Ron's eyes widened. What's going on? Which wizard goes out with a box of wands? Is your last name Ollivander? Pick one. You can't expect to take this wand for the final exam. Zhang Dong. How do you have so many wands? Ron finally couldn't help asking this question. Zhang Dong fiddled with the wands in the box and said nonchalantly, I got them from those blind dark wizards in Nocturne Alley. I can get one with one Expelliarmus. I don't realize I have more than a dozen. Unfortunately, after I got rid of a few batches, those guys just avoided me. After that, Zhang Dong took out a wand and handed it to Ron, saying, Now please call me Dong Ollivander. Zhang Dong stood in front of the box of wands, like a real businessman. Ron, it is the wand that chooses the person, not the person who chooses the wand. Zhang Dong, you are so serious all of a sudden. Ron whispered. He had never been to Ollivander's wand shop, so he naturally didn't know what Zhang Dong meant by this. Don't underestimate the wand. Zhang Dong picked up a wand and hit Ron on the head. Harry, who was watching, covered his head subconsciously. If nothing else, Mr. Ollivander would definitely not hit people with a wand. Okay. Zhang Dong handed the wand in his hand to Ron casually, try this one, black walnut, troll beard, 10.5 inches. Troll beard? That can also be made into a wand. Ron thought of the troll that he defeated in the light curtain, and felt it was outrageous. Zhang Dong nodded and said, Of course, Sir Cadogan in the portrait on the 7th floor of Hogwarts, the core of his wand was a troll beard. This is a wand that only the brave can control. The dark wizard at that time was indeed very brave. He came to rob me without knowing my background. And Black Walnut usually likes masters with keen intuition and strong insight, because it cannot adjust the user's magic power, so although it has a bonus to any spell, it is not easy to master. Wow! Ron took the wand and pointed it at Scabbers in front of him. Sunshine, daisies, butter fragrance, turn this stupid mouse yellow. Bang! A flash of light passed, and Scabbers actually turned into yellow hair. Although it was shit yellow. Cool. I succeeded. Ron looked at this scene excitedly. Harry frowned and said, Is this considered a success? It's already a success. I feel it's much more convenient to use than my previous wand. Ron was very excited and didn't care about Harry's expression at all. It shows how inconvenient his original wand was. But Zhang Dong was very dissatisfied. He couldn't ruin his reputation with his first order, so he took out another wand and handed it to Ron and said, It only fits you 70% at most. Try this one, Blackthorn Wood, River Monster Backthorn, 9¾ inches. Wow! It looks so cool. Ron took the wand and looked at it curiously. Zhang Dong introduced, Blackthorn, its owner is either an aura or a dark wizard, because it is born to love adventure, and it will only completely recognize its master after living and dying with its master. As for the River Monster Backstab, it is more accurate to say that it is the White River Monster Backstab. The magic wand with it as the core is powerful and elegant when casting spells. Zhang Dong, how do you know so much? This is not even written in the book. Ron looked at Zhang Dong with shining eyes. The other people in the dormitory also looked at Zhang Dong with admiration. He is always like this, knowing everything. Zhang Dong just smiled, adjusted his non-existent glasses and said, Look, no, this is called professionalism. Although he doesn't know how to make a wand, he knows all the theoretical knowledge. Zhang Dong also considered that Ron, a true Gryffindor, must like adventure, and needless to say, he will definitely take adventures in the next 6 years, so he can quickly gain the recognition of this wand. It's just elegance. Ron took the wand and pointed it at Banban in front of him, Wingardium Leviosa. Buzz! In an instant, Banban flew 4 or 5 meters. Ron immediately became excited, but the next second, Banban seemed to be out of control and spun in the sky, and then fell into the flower pot. Banban! Ron yelled and immediately ran over to pull Scabbers out. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. And Zhang Dong sighed. Sure enough, you can't expect the chicken leg destroyer to understand what elegance is. Zhang Dong took out another wand, fir wood, dragon heartstring, 10¼ inches, if this one doesn't suit you, you can use the trolls. BGFJ. Not to mention the dragon heartstring, the magic used is powerful and gorgeous, one of the 3 signature wand cores of Ollivander, and fir wood. Fir wood, only wizards with strong inner strength and stability can control it. If it falls into the hands of indecisive wizards, it will become weaker and weaker. You can definitely meet this point, and it also has a bonus for transfiguration. Zhang Dong actually has another hawthorn wood, dragon heartstring, 10½ inch wand, but he gave it to Zhang Chu as a spare wand, and hawthorn wood is more suitable for medical treatment. Ron took the wand and pointed it at Banban, sunshine, daisy, butter fragrance, turn this stupid mouse yellow. Swish! In an instant, the fur of this fat mouse turned golden yellow. Under the fluorescent flash, it even makes people feel that its appearance has increased a few points. Great! This is really what I did. Ron's transfiguration has never been very good, but now, he has succeeded. And it is a perfect success. Ron looked at the wand in his hand with love, and seeing this scene, Zhang Dong also understood that Ron had made his own choice. He nodded, then put away the other wands and said, "It seems that this wand has found its owner, so I will give it to you as this year's Christmas gift." "Thank you, Zhang Dong. This is the best Christmas present I have ever received." Ron happily thanked Zhang Dong. Not only the best, but also the most expensive. After all, everyone knows their family's financial situation. Not to mention Harry, Hermione is better than him. Next year on Harry's birthday, Hermione will give Harry a set of flying broom care tools, including a large box of handle polish, a pair of silver pruning knives, a long-distance flight compass and a flying broom care manual. It's very expensive at first glance, definitely not just 7 galleons. By the way, Hermione's family is also quite money. Do dentists make so much money these days? With his new wand, Ron was as happy as a 100-pound child. He turned Scabbers black, blue, Wingardium, and luminescent until he had cast all the spells he knew. He felt that he had no magic left and then went back to bed to rest. Only Zhang Dong suddenly thought of a question while lying in bed. Ron has a new wand. Could Lockhart be re-elected as the Professor of Defense against the Dark Arts? But after just thinking about it, Zhang Dong fell asleep without caring. It's just Lockhart. Why bother so much? Thinking like this, Zhang Dong covered himself with the quilt and fell asleep. The first class at Hogwarts was Sprout's herbology class. Zhang Dong's herbology was only elementary, that is, the level of a third-year wizard. He was outstanding, but not top-notch. At least Zhang Dong felt that Hermione and Neville were not inferior to him in this class. Neville was the future professor of herbology at Hogwarts, and his talent for herbology was particularly outstanding. Because it was the first class of the school, everyone was very excited, but when the Serpent House and the Lion House looked at each other, everyone's good mood was ruined. Everyone had only one thought. Why is it always them? Hello, second-year students, everyone come closer. Sprout waved to everyone as soon as she came in. It can be seen that she really loves this job. After everyone came closer, she continued. Welcome everyone to the third greenhouse. Today we are going to give. Before Sprout finished speaking, a huge light screen appeared in the greenhouse and in the sky. Sprout suddenly became energetic and instantly thought of yesterday's live broadcast. What? Is my first class of the new semester going to be an open class? This is really great. Let everyone see my teaching ability, which can be regarded as my farewell performance before retirement. However, Professor Sprout thought too much. Zhang Dong was not going to broadcast live at all. What he was going to do was Hogwarts Legacy Herbology class. Zhang Dong had no opinion on Professor Sprout, and because he had no opinion, he did not need to let everyone see Sprout's teaching level. He has real talent, unlike Gilderoy Lockhart. Anyway, it seems that Gilderoy's class will be tomorrow. Let's give him a full live broadcast? Well, it's decided. Just when Zhang Dong was thinking, the light screen had already started playing. In the corridor of Hogwarts, little wizards were walking back and forth. Some of them were wearing red magic robes, some were wearing blue magic robes, and of course there were yellow and green ones. However, among these wizards, one figure seemed out of place. He was wearing a black magic robe and a hat of the same style on his head. Most importantly, he had a black skull mask on his face. Black wizard suit. As shown in the picture. Looking at this outfit, everyone who was looking at the light screen was stunned. Lucius Malfoy, if I'm not mistaken, this should be the Hogwarts legacy period, so this person should be Zhang Dong. James Potter, I just want to ask a question, will he really not be beaten if he walks around in Hogwarts wearing this? Remus Lupin, it seems that he won't be beaten. Maybe, the atmosphere was more open 100 years ago. James Potter, then he wouldn't run around in this outfit that is obviously a dark wizard's outfit. Phineas Bray Black, you really don't care. Phineas Black, this, ahem, I always respect students' freedom of dress. James Potter, then you are really free. Wearing this, Zhang Dong finally quietly pushed open a door, and the next second, a spring scene appeared in front of everyone. Seeing this familiar greenhouse, everyone knew where this was. Herb classroom. In this classroom, students from 4 colleges gathered around a tall and slender woman wearing a green fashionable dress. Herbology Professor, Garrick. Looking at Zhang Dong coming in, Professor Garrick showed a happy expression. Come on, students, let's welcome our new seedling. To welcome Zhang Dong's arrival, everyone applauded friendly, not caring about Zhang Dong's dark wizard outfit at all. Draco Malfoy, wait. 4 colleges taking classes together? Did Hogwarts have so few students back then? Lucius Malfoy, Draco, you have to know that the era 100 years ago was very chaotic. What you see now is still pretty good. According to records, it was around this time that the number of wizards in Britain suddenly decreased significantly, at least 1/3 disappeared. At that time, almost all dark wizards could not be found. It was a disaster. Narcissa Malfoy, the most important thing is that no one knows the reason, so even in history, this period is only called the Great Extinction of Wizards. Gellert Grindelwald, I vaguely know a little about this. It seems to be because of the Goblin Rebellion at that time, but this matter was suddenly quelled. The Great Extinction of Wizards? The mysterious disappearance of a large number of dark wizards? The sudden cessation of the Goblin Rebellion? Zhang Dong was a little embarrassed, as if he knew what had happened. Zhang Dong returned to his seat, while Professor Garrick smiled and explained the knowledge of herbology to everyone. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. As we all know, for an excellent herbalist, jumping bulbs are as dangerous as poisonous tentacles. Ron was confused. He looked at Professor Sprout in confusion and asked, Professor, what does this sentence mean? Sprout thought for a while and then explained. These are 2 magical plants. Jumping bulbs only jump around. Most people think they are harmless, but many people don't know that adult jumping bulbs will continue to jump. Only fire can subdue them. And poisonous tentacles are a kind of thorny plant with highly toxic substances. Its vines can swing flexibly. Once it catches a living thing, its tender branches will immediately secrete venom, which is fatal. Professor Sprout didn't say anything more, that is, Professor McGonagall's husband Elphinstone Elcott was bitten by the venomous tentacles and died due to untimely treatment. So, after hearing Sprout's explanation, everyone also understood it a little. Sure enough, herbology is a very important subject. If you are not careful, it will really be fatal. Professor Garrick stood on the podium and enthusiastically preached to all the students. Next, the students will see the root-like plant called mandrake. By the way, they have a very beautiful voice that is enough to make people addicted. Sprout was a little embarrassed. Being addicted to it is indeed very addictive. But Sprout suddenly reacted. Something is wrong. I am talking about mandrake to the 2nd graders today. Weren't your students in the 5th grade at that time? You only learned mandrake in the 5th grade. Sure enough, the education 100 years ago is still incomparable to my own. Professor Garrick summoned a flower pot with a flying spell, then took out 2 round earplugs from his arms and said to the students. Next, we will find a new place for these friends to live. Please cover your ears. After hearing Professor Garrick's words, everyone put on their earplugs obediently. Seeing that all the students had put on their earplugs, Professor Garrick said, "Next, please hold the leaf stem of the mandrake and pull it up hard." Zhang Dong looked at the mandrake in the pot, and he exerted force with his hand. Bang! An ugly rhizome as big as a baby was pulled out directly by him. As soon as the rhizome came out, it opened its mouth and howled loudly. The sharp sound made all the little wizards present cover their ears. May 10th, even under the harsh sound, cracks appeared on the glass roof of the greenhouse. When Sprout saw this scene, she immediately understood what happened. She first glanced at the students present to confirm that the sound in the video would not affect them. Then she said with confidence, "Mandra is. Forget it, Hermione, you answer it." Sprout saw Hermione raising her hand, and then smiled and asked her to answer. Hermione was happy to see that she was chosen, and she said, "The mandrake is also called mandrake root, which can restore the petrified people to their original state. And their roots can also make sharp cries, which are enough to kill people who hear them." "Very good, Gryffindor plus 10 points." Sprout nodded with satisfaction, and then added, "The mandrakes we use for teaching are all seedlings, which are not enough to kill people. At most, they can make people faint." Professor Sprout pointed to the scene in the light screen, and she said very seriously, "But here, the mandrake in Zhang Dong's hand is a nearly adult mandrake. This kind of thing is absolutely not allowed to appear in the classroom. I have to say that the professors in the past were really careless." Sprout became more and more angry as he spoke. This was really too dangerous. And she might not know that in that era, this level of danger was not considered a danger at all. Seeing the mandrake in Zhang Dong's hand, Professor Garrick said quickly, "Let's put the mandrake back into the pot and cover them with a warm and soft mud blanket." While speaking, Professor Garrick took out his wand and used a repair to repair the broken ceiling of the greenhouse. She came to Zhang Dong and looked at Zhang Dong, who had been treated. She breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Sorry, it's my problem. Your mandrake seems to be a little overripe." After Professor Garrick finished speaking, he taught everyone to grow white mulberry. Of course, Zhang Dong completed it easily. Seeing Zhang Dong so relaxed, Professor Garrick called him aside with satisfaction and said, "You performed very well. I believe it won't be long before you can understand that the role of plants is not only in potions. Narcissa Lestrange, herbology? What else can these things be used for besides making potions? This is the most boring class in Hogwarts." "Sprout, that's because you don't have a heart that yearns for light and nature, so it has become like this." Newt Scamander, "That's right, and I remember that Hufflepuff is the house with the fewest dark wizards so far." "That's right, Harry Potter and Strange Animals and Legacy of Hogwarts." Zhang Dong really doesn't know which Hufflepuff became a dark wizard. As for the uselessness of herbology, it seems that you don't understand the power of herbology at all. Where is my Chinese bite cabbage? No, I have to find it. Zhang Dong started looking for his video library again. Garrick looked at Zhang Dong in front of him, and she said with satisfaction, "There are some Chinese biting cabbages in the greenhouse next door. I hope you can help them grind their teeth, so that they will not be so noisy. By the way, be sure to protect your fingers, they really like to bite people." Narcissa Lestrange, mystifying. Antonin Dolohov, "It's just 2 cabbages, not enough for me to eat in one meal." August Rookwood, "Don't say that, after all, he is a child, it is normal to be afraid of cabbage bites." The Yunoho in the light curtain of these Death Eaters taunting naturally didn't know. He just obediently walked towards the next greenhouse. Zhang Dong came to the next greenhouse, and saw 7 or 8 cabbages neatly placed in the central flower pot. Zhang Dong was not polite at all, and pulled them out of the flower pots one by one and put them in his backpack. Of course, Zhang Dong did not forget his mission, helping these Chinese biting cabbages to sharpen their teeth. He came to a dummy and threw a biting cabbage out casually, and as soon as he landed, this group of biting cabbages attacked the dummy frantically. Because there was no reference, it looked quite interesting. August Rookwood, "Oh, look at these ferocious cabbages, do they look like dogs?" Evan Rozier, "Don't say that, Rookwood, they are much worse than dogs, at least the 3-headed dog is very fierce, isn't it?" Amicus Caro, "I really want to eat cabbage." Electo Caro, "Sister, how about we eat boiled cabbage tonight?" Electo Caro, "I have no objection." Looking at these black wizards who have not yet realized the seriousness of the problem, Zhang Dong silently clicked on the next video. Elegant Eastern Power, Chinese Biting Cabbage. The moment Zhang Dong clicked on the video, the next second, the video on the light screen changed. What is this? Before everyone reacted, they saw the next picture. Roar! In the picture, a giant monster in full armor was roaring angrily, and in front of him, Zhang Dong, who was as weak as a little rabbit, just watched it silently. Then, he silently took out a Chinese biting cabbage from his arms and threw it directly at the giant monster. Ron Weasley, oh! Giant monster! This thing is very powerful. I have only defeated one. Fred Weasley, Ron Weasley, your video is just a video. In fact, it was the giant monster that Zhang Dong solved. George Weasley, and it was an easy kill, which is different from your knockout. Ron Weasley. My brother, can't you just let me finish pretending? Cabbage vs. Giant monster? The scene that everyone thinks of is basically the giant monster picking up the biting cabbage and spinning it into its stomach. If they like to eat it. However, the next scene overturned everyone's impression. Zhang Dong clearly only threw out one biting cabbage, but for some reason it turned into two when it landed. And something even more terrifying happened. Two biting cabbages pounced on the giant monster. Crack, crack, crack. The giant monster was bitten by the two cabbages and ran away with its head in its hands. However, it was far inferior to the biting cabbage in terms of speed and flexibility. In the end, the giant monster, which was as big as a locomotive, actually fell to the ground with a bang. The giant monster is dead. August Rookwood, what did I see? A ferocious armored giant was bitten to death by two cabbages. How is it possible? Bella Lestrange, there is something wrong with this giant, it must be sick. That's right. It must be like this. Lucius Malfoy, impossible. Absolutely impossible. I know this thing, it is not so powerful at all. This video is fake. It must be fake. It's not Lucius's fault that they don't believe it, it's just that this picture 17 is too subversive to people's three views. Normally grown biting cabbage does not have this power, but who makes Huo Yi's protagonist a monster-like existence? Equipment bar characteristics, Yishui herbalism, effect, greatly increase the damage of all plants. Or fangs, significantly increase the damage of Chinese biting cabbage. Talent fertilizer, when throwing Chinese biting cabbage, an extra Chinese biting cabbage is generated. This talent is one of the unique talents of the protagonist Huo Yi, and only those with ancient magic talent can unlock it. Of course, if you have money, Yanohu throws one Chinese biting cabbage into two, and you can directly throw 4 biting cabbages to achieve a similar effect. Voldemort, be quiet. Don't be so embarrassed. It's just a giant monster, can't you beat it? Voldemort is still very authoritative. As soon as he appeared, everyone immediately became honest. That's right, it's just a giant monster. And this is just the beginning. The scene changes. In the Forbidden Forest, 7 poachers are looking for their prey here. Looking at the wands in their hands, they are obviously powerful dark wizards. However, they don't know that behind them, a young man has been observing them for a long time. Invisibility spell. Zhang Dong waved his wand and disappeared. He quickly ran to the side of the wizards, then took out a large basket and poured it out. Go! Roar! 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 4 become 8, 8 biting cabbages rush directly towards the target. What is this? The flames are blazing. Shattered into pieces. Smashed to pieces. The black wizards kept struggling, but the biting cabbages were not afraid at all. They rushed forward and bit them one after another. In less than 3 minutes, the 7 black wizards were wiped out without even seeing who attacked them. Evan Roger, this. Voldemort, they are just a group of inferior black wizards. They don't even have the qualifications to become Death Eaters. That being said, Voldemort's confidence was obviously much weaker. 7 black wizards, it's enough to beat up a Death Eater, but in front of this pile of cabbages, they don't even have any resistance? In the cave, Zhang Dong walked in with a fluorescent flash. Suddenly, a huge spider crawled out from the ground. Horrible mouthparts, ferocious face, furry but sharp limbs. It's the XXXXX magical animal. A Cromantula. Ron Weasley, oh. No. It's disgusting. Harry Potter, I still don't understand why you are afraid of spiders, Ron. Ron Weasley, I'm not afraid of spiders, I just hate the way they crawl. If it's dead, I won't be afraid. Draco Malfoy, hee hee, if it's dead, children won't be afraid. Zhang Dong patted Ron on the shoulder and comforted him and said, "Take a good look, maybe you won't be afraid in the future." Hey? What does it mean? Ron still doesn't understand. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. And the next second he understood what Zhang Dong meant. A Acromantula crawled out. The Acromantula began to howl. Zhang Dong threw out 3 Chinese biting cabbages. Chinese bite cabbage used the clone to become 6 bite cabbages. Chinese bite cabbage used crunch. The Acromantula fell down. Ron Weasley. Hagrid, what the hell? Such a powerful Acromantula. It just fell down like that. How is that possible? Sprout, the truth is like this, Hagrid. This is the power of magical plants. Hagrid, no, that's because you haven't seen the power of magical animals. The horned beast jumped out. The horned beast began to howl. Zhang Dong threw out 2 Chinese bite cabbages. Chinese bite cabbage used the clone to become 107 4-bite cabbages. Chinese bite cabbage used crunch. Zhang Dong subdued the horned beast. Hagrid. Damn. Hagrid cursed and exited the barrage chat. This Tima is not a Chinese biting cabbage. It is clearly a Chinese instant cabbage. James Potter, ha ha ha. Biting cabbage is killing you. Voldemort, this thing is much more useful than Avada. Remus Lupin. James, don't say that. Although it's the truth, it's still hurtful. Zhang Qiu, is this the legendary Plants vs. Wizards? I've decided. As a Chinese, how can I not understand Chinese biting cabbage? I want to become a master of vegetable training. Neville Longbottom, I love herbology. I love Chinese biting cabbage. I've decided that I will carry 2 of these things with me in the future. If anyone bullies me again, I will throw it out and bite them. Sprout, I seriously suspect that Zhang Dong was assigned to the wrong house. He is so proficient in herbology, obviously from our Hufflepuff. Even Voldemort was a little skeptical at this time. I'm so stupid, really. When I fought Hogwarts, did I summon Death Eaters? Wouldn't it be enough to just pour 2 baskets of Chinese biting cabbage there? Avada misled me. The light curtain ended. Although it was not long, it must be said that for everyone present, they really re-understood the subject of herbology. But Professor Sprout is a little embarrassed now. No, with the light curtain like this, what should I talk about next? And Zhang Dong, who didn't know how entangled Sprout was now, silently took out his mobile phone and watched it. Your video successfully popularized the character Professor Garrick, you can get a reward, herbology, advanced. Advanced herbology, that is, the level of being able to get an O in the NEWT Advanced Wizard exam, worthy of Professor Garrick, is really a beautiful and kind person. Your video successfully popularized the magical plant mandrake, you can get a reward, a pack of mandrake seeds, 100 seeds. Your video successfully popularized the magical plant Chinese biting cabbage, you can get a reward, a pack of Chinese biting cabbage seeds, 100 seeds. Your video successfully popularized the character Yunohu, you can get a reward, talent fertilizer. Talent fertilizer. Talent is finally out. In the future, my own biting cabbage can be used as too. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can get equipment with equipment bars in this era, otherwise, I can only hope to get equipment by watching videos. At this time, Professor Sprout also readjusted his state. Because of the light screen video, today's little wizards are particularly interested in Professor Sprout's class. So, in the high-spirited learning atmosphere of the students, Professor Sprout completed a wonderful first class. Even after class, Zhang Dong still saw Neville running over and curiously asking about the Chinese biting cabbage. When everyone was sitting at the table in the restaurant, they were still discussing today's events enthusiastically. Except for one person, Neville Longbottom, who was holding a fork and silently poking the steak in front of him. Okay, Neville, don't be unhappy. Harry tried to comfort Neville. Professor Sprout said that as long as you reach the 5th grade, you can try to cultivate Chinese biting cabbage. Chinese biting cabbage is strong, but it is also dangerous to grow. Neville is only in the 2nd grade. Although he has reached the elementary level of herbology, he is still a little insufficient. Listening to Harry's words, Neville still said somewhat unhappy. Then I will be bullied by Malfoy and his friends for another 3 years. I really want to see them being chased around by the biting cabbage. Ron patted Neville on the shoulder and couldn't help saying, believe me, I think so too. Promise me that if there is a chance in the future, you must let me see that scene. Yet. Neville nodded continuously. On the other hand, Zhang Dong fell into thinking. I have seeds and technology now, should I also plant some biting cabbage? My room of requirement has always been empty. After Zhang Dong found the room of requirement, he went there for final review or to test spells, but it was useless. This was embarrassing. But now, it is useful. I want to build a potion table and a gardening workbench there. You can buy ready-made ones and put them in there, or you can use the transfiguration charm to create some in the room of requirement. The transfiguration charm is a subcategory of transfiguration. After Zhang Dong achieved the ultimate transfiguration, he could master it in seconds and perform at an intermediate level even if he didn't know how to do it before. This is the principle that if you master one method, you will master all methods. To read the exciting novels, go to Novel Network. But the problem is that Zhang Dong can transform, but he can't make it. Just like Zhang Dong's current transfiguration level is theoretically enough to make a tank by hand, but the problem is that he doesn't know how a tank is made, so he can only transform some pistols and rifles, which are classic old models of 100 years old. This is all thanks to the firearms proficiency provided by Jacob. The production drawings of the potion table and the gardening workbench are available in Hogsmeade. Zhang Dong decided to ask Zhang Qiu to buy 2 blueprints in a while. Although he could go by himself, he had another thing to do. That is, mining moonstone. Transfiguration is not omnipotent. According to Gamp's basic law of transfiguration, you can't make anything out of thin air. The reason why the room of requirement can respond to every request is that the room of requirement is made of moonstone, a mineral, and then expanded with the help of the traceless stretching technique to create a magical place. And the properties of moonstone are very changeable, which is very suitable for transforming various inorganic substances. This is why Neville later complained that the room of requirement can transform anything except food. Moonstone, Hogwarts should have a lot of it. I've decided to go mining tonight. Thinking in this way, Zhang Dong's eating movements slowed down a lot. Click. A flash of light came on, and Zhang Dong finally reacted. At this time, not only Zhang Dong, but also Harry, Ron, and Hermione were attracted by the light. The 4 of them looked up and saw a cute boy holding a camera and looking at them embarrassedly. No. Sorry, my name is Colin Creevy, I am from Gryffindor College. Hello Colin. Harry greeted Colin in a friendly manner. At this time, Colin seemed particularly excited. He held the camera and said to Harry, "Hello, can you ask your friend to take a photo for us? To prove that we have met. I want to show it to my dad, he's a milkman, I mean except me, everyone in my family is a muggle." Rubbish. Harry was a little embarrassed looking at the excited Colin. Originally, an owl should have come to deliver the howler, but unfortunately, because of the light curtain, Molly Weasley obviously didn't want to waste this time. Looking at Harry Andron, Zhang Dong took Colin's camera with a smile. He remembered that this seemed to be Colin's biggest wish, but unfortunately, he was interrupted by Lockhart in the original novel and by the Howler in the movie. Until he died in the final battle, his wish was not fulfilled. "Let me do it." Seeing Zhang Dong, Colin immediately said happily. "Thank you, Senior Zhang Dong. By the way, Senior Zhang Dong. You are so awesome. You predicted all 3 of us correctly. We really joined Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw. Unfortunately, the school has just started, and I don't know if your prediction that Professor Lockhart will be laid off next year can come true." "What?" As soon as Colin's voice fell, Gilderoy Lockhart, who was passing by, couldn't help but shout out. "I was laid off after working for a year? Damn, who is this kid looking down on?" If you enjoy the content of this channel, subscribe, like, and comment, to help this channel to grow.